You're awake, traveler. They caught you trying to cross the stream borders to the UKEL chat here in week 2. But unfortunately, you're going to have to stick here with myself, Initialize and Nymera, and Skyrim puns abounding. You can guess what's been going on in the background here in the UKEL broadcast room. Things have gotten a little wild, but not as wild as the 2 matchups I have to bring you tonight with Nymera.
Yeah, we've been stuck on the character selection screen for quite a while, trying to figure things out in the background, but we do, of course, have no questions and no qualms about our 2 matchups of the day. We've got kind of things at both ends of the table. We've got Viperia versus Monster Rugby Gaming coming up first, both coming in off a bit of an unfortunate week 1. Right, the other end of the scale is Demise Academy versus London United, right after, brought to you by us, though.
Absolutely. Demise Academy versus London. As we mentioned, the utter opposite end of the table. Both teams currently undefeated here in the UKEL, both looking pretty strong, honestly, after their first week. But before we talk too much about that, I think we do need to return a little bit back to Viperia and Munster. And thanks, mate, for dragging us back from Skyrim-induced delirium, because we have probably got to discuss what's going on between these 2 teams. Both started 0-2, both not looking the best right now, though. They've got a lot of time to go, and they've got a lot to prove still.
They do, and it is just a week 1, and we forced it pretty hard down your ear holes in week 1, saying that actually, if these teams end up in semi-finals, finals, going into playoffs at all, people aren't really going to remember the week 1. It's a test of an organization, well, one of the first 2 tests, really, to say, what do you do when things don't go to plan? We talked with Viperia, they've talked with us about how they were confident coming into this split. They've got a lot of real pressure on them to perform in their players, but they really want to make sure they can flex their muscles. And of course, Munster, being that huge org themselves, have a few resources to pull to bear as well.
They absolutely do, but we are now moving into picks and bans. It will be Viperia on the blue side, it'll be Munster on the red, and that means it's in for Johnny Reko, Killerkin, Kaz, and Hase, apologies, making up that roster
Sam,
for Viperia.
Summoner's Rift no longer belongs to the Nords. Olaf's banned.
And Seraphine, for the sake of, we'll stop that right there, has also been banned. And that pun I have made too many times today, so we'll pass it on.
I've heard it quite a few times. And you know what also I've heard quite a lot? All of these bans, actually.
Yes,
of course, this is like... Pantheon's been changed up quite a lot in the last couple of patches, but you look at Olaf, Pantheon, Seraphine, and Talia, all of them very standard right now. When we were thinking, oh, what's going to be contested? Are there any special champions that are going to come up? No, it's just honestly all of the meta junglers and a couple of extra things outside of it. That's the one, actually I'll point up that way, that Annie-ban, that's the one thing which is slightly off meta between these 2 teams right now.
And that's because Davidoff's actually already pulled it out here in the UKEL. It didn't look especially great, but the fact they have been willing to pull it out is something of a pocket pick, makes it worthy of at least consideration of the ban phase, and it does mean it's taken away from us. Gaming. The Talia as well, I really rate. I think Johnny Reko does silly things on that champion. Anybody who's done a little bit of scouting into this guy will notice his fairly insane statistics over on Surfer herself. So it's just taken off the board alongside that Hecarim, which is another one of those high farming, high impact junglers.
Okay, right, so Haas gets Thresh. Haas is a very good Thresh player. Plays a lot, excuse me, plays a lot of the different champions too. I think that one of my problems with Viperia, with one of their week 1 games, I think that was the one that we ended up casting, was when they played Seraphine in the support role and they fell behind, they struggled at the vision game. Thresh is not a champion that really had, sorry.
I'll take over for a little bit while that's going on.
Oh, that's just awful. No, this is worse.
Look,
I hope they don't choke as badly as I do.
I am the color caster now, so I get to talk about this while you're coughing yourself to death. This is my cunning plan as your older brother.
Well, it's all well and good that, yeah, let's just hope that, of course, by myself choking up here, the teams won't do on stage.
Nice recovery, we take that. Let's touch a little bit on what Monster Rugby Gaming have locked in there. They've gone towards the Kaiser for Kaverman, who is one of those higher ranked players. Looked pretty good on that champion when we've seen him before around there. Graves is the lock-in for Goose, but that means the response is Lilia, which of course is still around about, and Azaya, which has been seriously rising in priority, and I know you really rate yourself, Nightmare.
I do, particularly because, actually, in this case, because of the Kaiser and Zai, look at those and you think, what do they have in common? They can reach a backline target one way or another, either with collateral damage going in with Dash Gale Force from the side of Graves, or using the Killer Instinct, and then similarly having a Gale Force on the side of Kaiser. Xayah gets to first take a Thrash Lantern as well as one option available, and then have the ult Gale Force themselves to really peel back and have an ability to outplay this in a way which a lot of AD carries don't have the ability to do. I mean, Samira does to an extent, right? With the W,
Sure.
the spin wind
Wild
wall.
Rush and all the rest of it, yes. Well, not Wind Rush, Wild Rush, there we go.
Exactly, right. So Xayah has the ability to outplay a lot of those scenarios, but if it's forced by a Bard ult first, that Feather Storm, things change very drastically.
And speaking of Bard, the Mask of Jelly, to those who do not know or have not been paying attention to the broadcast for the last little while when we've been talking about this guy, is a Bard main. He has been to Grandmaster a number of times off the champion and does really, really quite disgusting things on the champion in solo queue. So I'm quite excited to see what he can do paired up alongside Caverman, who is, as we said, one of those higher rated AD carries by some of the community around and about. So at least ostensibly, that's a fairly decent pairing, at least on paper, right?
I agree. On the other side, so we have the Bard for that long-range playmaking engage, having the tunnels too. There's a lot of things a Bard can do which really throw open a game quite wide. We see the Gangplank ban coming in too. I'm a big fan of Infor, by the way. I think that even though they're new to this level of play and this competitive play, they really know how to slot into their different laning matches. Even when they were playing against Victorio, in that top lane, they did really well in the laning phase. That's definitely a stable part of their play, and giving someone a good laning phase player like a champion like Gangplank, that normally doesn't end up too well. And what you can see by banning out double tanks is that probably Viperia is out there going, we want to get one of these more diverse laning matchups, so Infor can maybe start snowballing that.
Well, speaking of matchups in the top lane that are becoming increasingly more prevalent, it's looking like a Gragas that will be heading towards Synapse's hands, unless someone is going a little bit mental and picking Lethality Graves in the solo lane, which would be a bit of an
that might be a sin in the next game, Sam. Who knows?
Well, you never know. There's the man who runs Teleporting Nice Kai'Sa in the top. We'll have to wait for that one, of course. Maybe that's still happening. Maybe things are getting flexed around. Who knows? But Vladimir is looking like a potential response here. And that's a fairly bold call, and I know you've rated Infor, and I know you quite liked what you've seen from him before. If that is going to his hands, especially with this Talon being hovered right now, I doubt it, and instead it's Yone locked in, which makes a lot more sense and is still as exciting in my eyes.
You can flex those solo lanes potentially, depending on what ends up coming into that mid lane. I wonder if we're going to go see, because of course, again, speaking of Sin, who's going to be up in that next game, played the Kraken Slayer Ignite teleport Yone in that last week. Now we see this Orianna coming in. I was just wondering if it was going to be that last second flick over to the Lucian. I think you're probably going to have to see that Yone into the mid lane and then the Vladimir up to the top lane. Because Orianna, at the higher levels of play, does have that range advantage, it can be really hard for Vladimir to approach the wave and not take a large chunk while doing so, because Orianna has higher DPS in the early stages of the game and just continually trading with the Clockwork Wind-up passive than a lot of other mages. Against the Gragas, I think that is a survivable matchup. You can end up trading around that as a double kind of sustained matchup, because of course Gragas has the passive, which helps out with that too. So some playmaking and a lot of team fight from the side of Viperia. And one thing I really like about this is that they have everything on the same page. They all definitely want to achieve the same things in team fights. On the other side, though, I'm really liking the Graves Orianna. That's going to have a lot more pressure in the early game. And I think that Munster have themselves some strong picks to play around.
Okay, so you've talked about what you've seen on the paper there. I do want to take us back a step, though, and look at teams in general. So I've got a stat for you here, Nightmare, and obviously this is after a week one of play, and there are lots of factors that play into this, but I do want to highlight the total GPM, the average GPM numbers for both of these teams across the 2 weeks. So Munster's GPM is... You be quiet. That's gold per minute, and I'll not take any of these meme acronyms thrown at me. Cast it aside. I'm trying to be serious. That's what I end up with, honestly. But yes, GPM gold per minute to those out in chat who are now confused. For Munster was 431 for their week one both games. It's not fantastic. Compare that to Viperia, who are 0-2, but are up at 701. That is a significant difference in GPM, and obviously, as I said, big difference in things like game time and how long games.
For sure, Viperia made it to late game, and that's a big thing. Munster kind of got a bit shut down a bit earlier into the games.
But even so, that particular discrepancy worries me a little bit in terms of fundamentals in CSing, just the ability to accrue gold from Munster, and how much do you think that affects them, even if the drafts look relatively competitive?
when you have a Kai'Sa and Orianna, so Kai'Sa does have the ability to play mid game relatively well. Graves and Bard help alongside that too. You do have the playmaking there, but when particularly you're playing around an Orianna, it does signal that you are at least going to index slightly into that late game amount. So being able to keep your GPM up and being able to go into that mid and late game without horrifying amounts of deficits to play around, yeah, that's definitely going to be a factor to work with. I guess what's working in their favor in this side is that on the other side you've got the Vladimir, who also wants to go. It is not really someone who wants to be doing too much in the early game. I put it this way: if these teams are talking about which dragons do we give up early and stuff like that, of course it can come from the 2v2 pressure and things like that. But you look at the Gragas compared to the Vladimir TPing into early fights, and the emphasis is definitely on the Gragas to make an impact in the early game. So I think that might end up giving Monster a bit of an edge if they do play around those globals well.
So assuming they play the globals well, assuming they play the early game well, slight edge to Munster in that early game, hits later, and things like Yone and Vladimir and Lilia and Zaya all start stacking some items.
We
the damage is going to be there.
saw that Demise Academy ace in about 2.5 seconds last week. That was terrifying and beautiful at the same moment, but that's what happens when you allow stuff like Yone to get into that late game team fight.
Yeah, go Google that one, guys. Go scroll down the Twitter feeds, because that Fate Sealed out of Demise Academy was really something else. That said, Killikin's gonna have to look to do something relatively similar this game. There's not that much engage, or at least easy access engage with Viper. You got a Vladimir flank, which is not awful. You got Lilia bowling balls coming in, looking for an opportune lilting lullaby, and at that point, it's good pick out of Zaya or Thresh throwing out decent abilities, or Yone hitting a good Fate Sealed. That's not the easiest engage, I don't think, Nightmare.
No, and so at least with Munster last week, they had team compositions where you could see the route which they were taking into team fights and stuff, right? Like even when they were playing that Annie game, it's like, okay, right, they have the ability to just run into you. They have that. Their champions want to do that. One of my problems with Viper on the other side, which is a different problem, because it seems like Monster kind of had that in check, at least, even if they didn't execute on it as well as they needed to win. Viper, it felt like they were playing very hard compositions. They were playing stuff like Zyra and Cassidy on the same team. And why is that difficult? Because you think, oh, they're really good scaling champions. They have the ability to win late game fights. Well, they don't want the same kind of fights. Zyra wants to go in one direction, have everything running through the feathers, and keep things like as narrow as possible. Whereas something like, I don't know, in this game, you've got the Vladimir and Dione, they do kind of want to do that flanking thing instead, particularly with the Cassidy in the game they picked it.
Yeah.
It felt like it was an antithesis to what the team comp wanted. So, and this team composition, it's a little better on that front. Don't think it is, as you were saying, the easiest thing to put. It's not the most apparent what the composition to play, right? It's not like you're saying, oh, we're going to flash Gragas in, and that'll be our engage, or Hecarim. Malphite, exactly. Viego stealing Malphite. Of course, Viego's not enabled today, but you know what I mean. But yes, I look at Viper and I think, okay, you still got yourselves a bit of a nebulous composition. Let's see how you play it.
All right, so those are the fears. Of course, there is still a world, as we kind of mentioned, where Infor and Killikin find a beautiful flank where Monster Rugby are gathered around a beautiful objective that draws them in like some taunt or lure, and then suddenly Vladimir puts a Homer Plague, and then Killikin's got a Fate Sealed, and everybody dies in a glorious explosion. Like that,
Did you say
still
taunt,
that dream.
lure?
Taunt or a lure.
Taunt. I was thinking, why is...
No, I wasn't necessarily going straight towards the Star Wars references this early on. Like, I'm aware I've already brought out the fantasy reference with Skyrim, which was, debatable
you
in
see,
terms of its relevance.
It's the astro. I'm in my sci-fi mode right now. It's this guy on screen. Yes. They should call him like the Darth of Jelly. That's the one. Cool. Yeah. If you ever need a Smurf name, you got it from us. Lovely.
Look, I understand that your hatred of Bard is long-standing.
It's legendary.
It
is legendary.
Still the only champion you do not own in the game.
Okay, I actually don't own Seraphine or Viego right now, so...
Okay, well, I'm slightly disappointed, because that was a fairly decent meme stature, and you've disappointed me there. Either way, Bard is right up there as one of your most hated champions, and
I just have so many bad memories of Season 5, when between Bard and Tom Kench, I'm just sat there, I'm like, oh, why am I playing this game when people are ruining it for me? The 32% win rate Bard was legendary.
Look, any champion that roams around collecting small creatures called meat and then throwing them at you as weapons is not a good person.
That's at the very best. That's like mistreating your pets.
Exactly. So he's clearly not a good person, and I understand your complaints against him.
Exactly. But
that being said, on magical journeys. That's not appropriate.
But on the other side of things, though, of course, like in the competitive level, Bard has got a lot of playmaking opportunity. That's a lot of damage.
Level 2 comes through first for Viperio's bot lane, and the Mask of Jelly regrets being at the wrong place in lane at that point. And all jokes aside, that's not the best look right now for Monsters, who definitely don't want that early trade coming their way.
And what's really good for Vipero here, and something that Munster will have to see how they really want to approach it in the next minute or two, is that, of course, you've got strong side on that bot lane 2v2, but top lane has a cull, wants to play weak side, and has managed to get enough CS from the early waves, hasn't been chunked out early, you can't dive that champion early into the game. Not at this point anyway, and of course is going to be able to set up a freeze at this point. So Vladimir getting exactly what they want from the laning phase, Sire Thresh getting what they want from the laning phase. Munster now need to have the onus is on them to shake up this map state and find a way to break open this comfortable rhythm which Viperia found themselves in the early game.
I'm going to call this early game build the Blood Bank. That's what that is. Vladimir is going towards that. The scaling option, he knows what he's there for. He's stacking up that Carl, stacking up all those transfusion stacks, and he just needs to wait until he has enough blood packs in inventory to start, donating a little bit, getting those transfusions out and sharing the love.
Very innovative. I appreciate that one. Going on a...
Was it really? Cool. What was it?
Well, I have to say, I hadn't thought about it, and I was like, oh yeah. Well, now I have. Cool. It's incredible what Savage Lives Hapgood can bring to a cast. It's things which I never would have thought about before, and probably wouldn't have done, nor cared about if I hadn't heard about it.
Here's a fun little fact. Apparently, Vladimir and Viego are related.
Yeah,
Vladimir's like Viego's uncle or something.
Yes, that is what's said in the voice lines. I haven't actually read I haven't read the lore story yet, but yes, there are a couple of lines which do go towards that. So slowly tying in everyone into a common lore they are, and I'll be interested to hear where that works. Because of course there's the Blade the Ranking game coming out too.
Yeah,
so.
exactly, true enough. I'm quite looking forward to that actually. It should be quite good fun.
Yeah. As is Goose, looking forward to this Gromp, and Johnny's found his way up there.
Yeah, and of course Vladimir is shoved in, but does have the easier roam over, but this is of course a grave, so you can just quick draw his way over the wall and not feel too sad about life. Swellsuit does land, but I think it would be quite challenging to follow that up.
It's pretty difficult for Goose to stick to that as soon as Johnny... feathers do work. It's pretty hard for Goose to stick to that because, of course, Davidoff had backed. And if you don't have mid-pro, you don't have the ability to get your mid lane roaming over, you probably... not going to stick around too long, but still, it's worth a try. Of course, if Johnny turned up late or gone to another area of the map, it is still free farm as it stands. Graves going to go back up to those Raptors. Will be spotted out by Yone though, so I guess now we've got a chance. Oh, I guess the big Raptor's stolen away.
That's really sad.
Oh, that's just horrible.
Soul and bound to steal some chicken. That's a risky thing to do. You know, just go for a bit of an astral projection to go steal a man's fried chicken. That's
the one.
That's not what you do.
We could see.
It's just not cricket.
Could see a bit more of a butting ahead between the junglers as it's coming up to this dragon, but we do have mid and bot lane priority coming in from Viperio, so they it looks like it won't be contested. First dragon going over the way to Viperio. So you know what I was saying about, maybe that top lane could influence which of the dragons you're going to give over first. Looks like Viperio have got themselves the correct moves at the correct time from their individual laners to follow up and get themselves a free objective.
I appreciate the attempt there from Caverman, who had probably about the right timing there, honestly, to try and steal with the Void Seeker. Just the body blocked there by Haas, so that wasn't going to happen. And we're sort of settling in now to a continuingly even early game. Gragas up a fair amount versus the Vladimir, but not exactly unexpected with the way his game's playing out. But everywhere else, relatively even, with perhaps slightly towards Xayah and Lilia with farm and camps as they are.
That's reflected in the scoreboard. It is completely even across the gold, about as even as it gets in League of Legends. And now we've got a level 6 Vladimir who's going against a low mana Gragas who will need to back at some point. We're just going to have enough mana to shove in this next wave, and that means that the pressure is now off of this of Infor's champion, right? So he gets to have a free wave under turret. Of course, a little bit hard to CS those, but does a decent job of that actually. So take that one back, and Infor 10 CS behind, but I think that's more than okay for this pick at this point in the game.
I have, however, got a call out in the mid lane. Davidoff is down a flash, and Killikin is down a Fate Sealed and Ignite. And there was an attempt at the solo kill there that didn't work out, but certainly got some summoners down. That does force Davidoff back for the teleport reset, but has kept his life, and Killikin will have to wait and see whether he can look for an attempt another time.
I love when I just completely miss things on the mini map. I'm just there like, I should probably be looking at these summoners a bit more, because it's one, of course, like, when you're looking at the Observer, you think, okay, well, what am I looking at? I'm looking at ultimate cooldowns, I'm looking at objective timers, and then of course you got the summoners too. So now you're thinking, okay, right, so you don't have that playmaking tool from Yone, which means that maybe Lilia is going to be not forcing quite as hard into these jungle versus jungle butting of heads we've seen once or twice in the last couple of minutes. Whereas I guess we're looking at right now, the ultimate's just about to come up from the duo lanes. That's probably the next big thing to come up, which will change the pace of the game, because maybe at that point we're going to slot into a 1-3-1 from Viperio. That seems to be the kind of way that a lot of teams go nowadays when you have these AD carries which wave clear mid so effectively. As it stands, actually, Johnny Rico finds a way to get into those Raptors, doesn't care about their mid laner not having their ultimate available, because of course Davidoff was kept under turret as well with no flash. So looks like Viperio just taking all of the advantages where they can. Of course, still a very even game, and it could just be one fight which does break it open.
Speaking of what could break it open, as we're fairly close to a Rift Herald start. Both bot lanes had switched top, and that means we've got a lot of people from both Viperio and Munster around this topside Baron pit, or should we call it the Herald pit right now?
Oh,
in goes Keverman. He's in a 1 versus 2, a little bit of Johnny Recco very, very low, trying to find his way out, but that could be a lilting lullaby. The death sentence comes through onto Keverman. Haas now caught in an awkward position, but here come the teleports. This is a big outplay. Haas goes down first blood to Kaiser. That's good news. Now the magical journey coming around. There's Vladimir going into the pool, trying to buy time, looking for Yone as well. Info having a flash out, goes down to Goose. He will be taken out by an end of the line, and that's exactly what it is. Now Davidoff got Killikin as well. It is a 3-for-1. Johnny Recco and Kaz trying desperately to evacuate from the Herald scene as Monster Rugby Gaming come out with everything there.
A lot of that comes from the Yone not hitting the right combo. It's going in one at a time. They don't find the correct ordering of their abilities, and then one thing misses, it goes worse from there, and they just aren't coordinated enough on that fight. On the other side of it, Monster Rugby, they pile on. They find the way to get the damage onto the correct targets to get themselves the Herald too. And we were talking about, oh, you know, one fight might end up breaking open the pace of this game. They have themselves a Herald, have themselves 3 kills, which takes 3 members of Viperio off the map for an amount of time, and they can reset and start looking where they can go next on the map.
As casters, we set the scene quite regularly in games like this, but very rarely do we see it painted so quickly afterwards with so much blood. That is a 3-0 plus Herald trade. That is a rough way for a fight to go for Viperio. Monster Rugby have got to be feeling absolutely pleased with that one.
They should do as well, because they've got gold onto all of the right members. It's spread across the Graves, the Orion, and the Kaiser. Absolutely all you need. Now we have level 6 is not... Yeah, you don't have the box or anything like that for Thresh. And of course, Thresh was one of the people to die first off in that fight, and there was no Featherstorm either. So you look at that and you think, oh, wait, if they get stunned there, maybe there's a chance you do have a turnaround, particularly with the Exhaust being taken on Zarya in the first place. Hadn't talked about that, yeah. And also not being available. So actually not very relevant there.
Mask of Jelly just hanging around saying, like, I have got Cosmic Binding here. I'll win this fight against you. Tries for it. Oh, and Haas gets it in the end. Nice attempt by the Mask of Jelly, but sadly, not quite enough bang to his meeps yet.
Not quite. 100 gold over to Thresh. Again, I guess they're happy about that one. And we're back waiting for the next thing around the game. And Munster have very quickly secured vision around the dragon spawning in the next 10 seconds. It's going to be a Cloud Dragon.
If they'd taken that Scuttle Crab.
That's the problem, yeah. And they're looking maybe for a pick on Killikin.
Killikin needs to be very wary. Hasn't got flash, but he's wise enough not to venture too far forwards. But the Tempered Fate comes forward. Out comes the Killer Instinct, and down goes Lilia. Johnny Recco finds himself dead for the first time this game as this second Drake spawns, and that is not a good look.
To me, that looks like a team that didn't quite know whether they were contesting or not. As it turns out, they lose someone because of that halfway house, and Johnny goes down. Dragon over to Munster. They take control of this game even further. They don't really lose anything across the board either. They've still got their top lane atop. They didn't move Synapse down to contest that Dragon, and they're very happy with that state of affairs.
Looks like we're on to an Infernal Rift, but Monster Rugby coming up pretty far ahead thus far, but Mask of Jelly did just have to flash. The box has gone down, and there's the health bar's advantages. But now, Keverman and the Mask of Jelly are starting to hunt. Goose is coming down as well. Haas, desperately low, sure to fall. And here comes Goose and Davidoff. Watch for the shockwave. The Featherstorm comes out, preventing that option. And that means the Munster find another kill for free. They've still got Herald in inventory, and they're going to pop it in this bot side.
And for the second time in quite a short period of time, Xayah has been bereft of the ultimate, won't be able to use that to threaten some kind of dive outplay. That means there's going to be 4 plates going over to both Graves and Kai'Sa shared between them, and of course that second kill onto Hassan. This was a first pick Thresh, remember. This is something that they were very confident with, thought they could win lane, and actually the early lane was going okay. Remember, that's what bought them that first dragon. It's really not led to anything more than that now, and you've got Kevin sat down at 3-0-2 and massively far ahead of their opponent.
And I bring this up relatively regularly versus Xayah, but there is an old conversation that ex-SKT and retired support Wolf used to say about what do you pick into Xayah? Ornn, Leona, Bard, multiple forms of long-range CC which you can force the ultimate basically for free. And you could see it there, Mask of Jelly throwing out things like the Cosmic, the Tempered Fate and the likes of it, ways to terrify this Xayah into ulting. And yes, it keeps her safe, but if she's permanently got that down, she never gets to step forward and be dangerous either.
And speaking of that, Moby's now on the Mask of Jelly, heading bot lane with that ultimate available. No Feather Storm. You see the Kai'Sa, and every time this Xayah pushes up now, they need to be very wary. They don't have flash. They don't have ult. They are in danger at this point in the game, particularly when you do have this Graves who is kind of unlocked now, because if you look at this vision, Munster have not just used this period of dominance to get themselves kills. They got vision as well, which allows them to starve Viperio of information across the map.
Speaking of starving, though, Kai'Sa is certainly not at 3-0-2. She is the first champion with a mythic on the board. Gale forces in for Keverman. He is a terror to behold right now. Looks like we might see a bit of a fight, though. Mask of Jelly does get stunned and could be in a lot of danger. Does use the magical journey to buy time, but a flash out of the Tempered Fate means that Has still gets the kill. Stylish stuff from Viperio bot lane, and a much needed turn in their favor.
It's very important. You look at what Xayah was trying to do in the last couple of minutes. It's try and just contest the wave. Actually, Hulk lands. The lance is coming in.
Lantern as well. That is stylish as hell. Kevin flashes out, but now he's still alive. But he's got to try and find his way out. The teleport in. Kaz looking for the kill. The heal. Buying time. Kaz does get that one, but the tower shots are coming down. Teleport, I believe, was interrupted in the mid lane by Yone, and he gets the solo kill. And suddenly, from 5-0, it's 3-5 of Viperio back in this game.
Outplay leads to outplay, and the Orianna goes down trying to defend the bot lane once again. This is all off the back of what we were talking about, that first pick, Thresh. It's one hook, one kill, second hook for a second kill, and then, of course, the Orianna comes in to cut down a third to size.
Well, I was beginning to write Viperio off, but look at the gold lead is back to even. Mask of Jelly comes in the mid lane, but there's no way he's getting onto Killikin right now, aside to throw some empowered auto attacks, and this game is back to anybody's at this point.
It is, but now we have to look for, well, what Munster were doing before, and I think for me it's like, okay, let's try and force the Xayah ult and force them away from that farm. Force them away from contesting for, let's say, that dragon in a minute's time. Maybe we can start trying to look for a play onto Kaz, who is sat alone in the spot lane right now, but is positioning effectively enough. But that's what they're looking for. You can see where the focus is. Graves once again returning bot side, has a camp up there, and maybe they're looking for Kaz once more.
Tempered Fate is seconds away from being usable by the Mask of Jelly. That would certainly be a way to force that ult very quickly. Vision not uncontested in the river right now. You can see where those Viperio wards are in that pixel brush, just in the back end of that Infernal Drake pit. And that means that right now, Munster need to try and sort out their vision game as well if they want to really get onto this fix. It's not the easiest face check for Viperio. They don't have a lot of tanky options. Soul and Bound from Killikin or a Thresh is probably their best bets right now.
But they do have this Vladimir who's been silently scaling up in this top side and a ward to teleport to just over that wall. Kevman takes a chunk. We'll see if that leads to any close outplays later, as this, of course, this Kai'Sa no longer has the flash, no longer has the heal of their own right after that death in the bot side. I'm looking to see if Viperio can push in this top lane. As you can see, the Vladimir's doing right now. They're clearing out one ward, but they have missed that all-important flank ward on the side. Infor might be able to just recall right here and then force something onto that dragon were Munster to commit to it.
Synapse is just teleporting down, and Killikin desperately looking for the gas! And we'll be throwing some celebratory drinks for that one. Cheers to that. Maybe it was Guinness in the cast to fit up with that monster vibe. The Tempered Fate comes out to find two more, and I don't think the celebrations are done yet. Welcome to the after party, Viperio. I hope you brought your drinks in. It looks like they have brought a few gifts for Munster Rugby Gaming. The turnaround is here, and I suspect Munster Rugby might have bitten off or drunk a little bit more. They could do it to Bloodbath at the moment. Interrupted in the magical journey is Gragas. Death sentences galore, and Looks like Vladimir is drinking something a little stronger than wine. The blood bank has come by. The deliveries are here, and that transfusion earns Vladimir 2 kills. And everybody is dead, apart from Killikin, who I believe is respawned, and now Vladimir and Thresh alive and around the river.
Yes, Killikin respawns after following the magical journey and gets a bit bopped by the meat. Jelly does claim at least 1 kill for their side on that side. It ended up being a 4 for 2, but with the junglers falling down so early, no one gets the dragon, and Davidoff has found their way back into the river, and there's a bit of vision around to maybe try and start that up themselves. Graves alive. Actually, it's not going to be a clean commit. They're just going to go try and get priority again rather than rush down this objective.
And that's going to be infuriating for Munster Rugby, because they got the pick onto Killikin. It was a 5 versus 4, and then they lost the fight.
They did. But the thing is, though, what did they use for it? They used the cask, which is really important. And when Jelly pops the ult onto, of course, Kaz and then Johnny as well, Zai just gets to turn around, the sleep comes through, the feathers are already down, and then you get sleep on top of a huge feather storm recall from the blade caller from Kaz, and that sets up the rest of that fight for success. There were a couple of misplays about the plays, but Viperio did enough work at the start of that and had the advantage in the cooldown still available to them, even in the 4v5, to win out the DPS check for the rest of that fight.
I hadn't realised that UKEL had contracted Hitchcock, my friend, because I didn't realise we were watching the birds here, because that is a scary amount of feathers coming around and about.
It's like, where's he going with it? Oh, right, yeah.
Come on, give me some credit.
I'm still like, oh, yeah. Look, Sam, it's been a bad League of Legends season for Bird Person. As we're saying that, Kaz and has dodged out on the Tempered Fate.
Cosmic Binding landed, but wasn't really available to go for the follow-up there. So ultimate down for the Mask of Jelly, but I appreciate the attempt at the pick. Goose is still around, though. The Voidseeker lands. Feathers now burn, but that means the waves are kind of gone. Tower is the aim. Dark Passage comes through, but they don't get that far, and the smoke screen slows people down. Feathers coming through. Look at what magical journey. Look at Davidoff over the wall as well. It's a 4 versus 2, but Munster can't pull the trigger easily enough. And now Haas and Kaz have got themselves enough safety around this bot tier 2 to stave off any further aggression.
They have. It's going to cost themselves a Herald on top side, but they get it for the turret on the bottom side. That's okay. That's all right trade. They're losing half away for Orianna. That's kind of minimal at this point. It's well played by Viperio not to give up kills. At that point, Munster will have had themselves a much more valuable play. Kevin's going into Haas, though.
He is inside the box zone. Welcome to the WWE Arena. Gale Force forwards, but there's shield is there, and the death sentence in return is good. Look for the feathers. Kevin needs to step behind them, but still walks through a little bit there. I appreciate the attempt, but that got a little scary in the top side. Gragas has been sent to sleep, and that is one alcoholic stupor Gragas didn't want to be a part of, as Killikin lives up to his name and finds a second kill of the game.
And the Chem Tank gives some tank stats for that Gragas up on the top side. It's not the Aegis, but it's also not as squishy as the Night Harvester. But at that point, you really wish you had a Zhonya's goes down. And that's another kill to Killikin. Yone scales very well into the late game. We've seen that multiple times in UK or AL already. And Killikin is now well on the way now because they do have that Gale Force and they're building up towards their second item.
Got to call out some interesting options here, of course. As we said, it is the Chem Tank for Gragas. That means, obviously, when we saw the Grasp as well, did indicate he was going to be going more towards that tank group. It's Shield Bow Graves, interestingly, not Gale Force. And, of course, on the other side, as you mentioned, that is Gale Force on Yone, not the Shield Bow, which is perhaps a little bit inverted than what I would normally expect to see from that channel.
Perhaps the more I see Yone, the more I am liking actually seeing the more aggressive items like the Kraken Slayer and the Gale Force. It allows you to, particularly with the Gale Force, while you're in that Soul Untethered, I believe it is Soul Untethered, yeah.
Soul Unbound, I believe.
Soul Unbound, nice, cool. That's the cool. Yeah, but it allows you to have that extra gap close for the extra auto attack, the extra Q, having that DPS and the extra sticking power for a melee assassin with that kind of Z death mark pop on that ability too when you pop back to it. It means it's really important, right? You get all that damage down, you get to pop them in much more clean combos as opposed to having a bit more of that dueling 1v1 potential you do get with that Immortal Shield Blow with the shield coming in and of course that lifesteal.
And I did just double check to make sure I was correct, and I was. Play-by-play,
not gonna lie,
instincts coming out strong.
I just called it Yone. That is like the boon of being a color cast. Sometimes you just have like, I just need to know the right button, I guess.
Also, if it was called Soul Untethered, I would have some serious thematic questions, because there is a very large tether that attaches him to his body, which means it's not untethered, it's just unbound. So, actually, Mortal Will did go in briefly there with that Soul Unbound. And not quite enough there to find anything of note, but Monster Rugby Gaming looking to find a third Drake for themselves in just over a minute, and they are holding court in this river once again with mostly control. 100% vision control. I was trying to think of a better way of phrasing that. I'm sure it'll come to me at some point. But there is once again a Viperia in the back of the pit, which has not been swept away or pink warded to oblivion, or rather control warded to oblivion. So a few seasons removed from the
Ah, I see. We've done with that other set of game puns, and now we're going on to Oblivion puns. Right, cool. And the hook lands!
Boy, the hook does land. So does the Herald charge. That's less of a surprise. Though, of course, Tempered Fate could have denied that. Wasn't used. And that means that mid-tier 2 is down. And Viperia using Monster's positioning around this Dragon Pit to look for the continued shove in mid. Cass goes in, doesn't really get a lot, but that's a good shove onto Cass, who now has to burn feathers, but the fate sealed comes through, and Keverman is dead. Lilting Lullaby finds 2 as well, and the burn is massive. Watch for the Hemoplague, watch for the Leandri's Anguish doing work as well. Killikin steps forward, Mortal Will firing, and everybody from Monster Rugby Gaming, aside from Keverman, goes out for now as Killikin finds a tap shot to the face. And goes down as well. Seals his own fate after getting a beautiful kill onto the AD carry of the opposing team.
Cool guys don't look at tower shots, but those who live certainly would like to see when it's coming in. The double TP's coming in. These picks are really important now.
They are. It's a 3 versus 2, but the HP bars and the ultimates are low. Who can steal it? Vladimir gets it. That means no junglers around to secure it, of course, but all the same, 2 dragons apiece, and Viperia have managed to escape. Monster burn double TP for that. Are they thinking about Baron?
I don't know. Well, they have that magical journey, and of course, Killikin has no teleport. I think they're looking to get vision, get themselves that Scuttle Crab. It depends whether they can start. This is probably more likely to be a bait, but of course, remember, there's no Xayah ult now. And the Lilting Lullaby is only just coming back up. Viperia are still struggling to find all of these cooldowns to fight with.
Got a lot of damage, of course. Kai'Sa with 2 items, and of course, Gragas attack. It's not bad news for these guys. Here come Viperia. They're looking to fight Baron down to some amount of HP. Very nearly gone and taken without contest. Now Monster need to disengage, need to get out. Synapse forced to Killikin, and Keverman is in a desperately difficult spot himself, as is Davidoff, who does go golden, but can't find too much more. Keverman needs to find a way out, but just so much damage comes out. Haas gets a rampage on the Thresh, living up to the Chain Warden's law amount of threat, even if it's not so much in-game, and 3 dead for 2 with Baron. Probably not the best trade Monster could have looked for there.
It's not, because also they're going to have all of their waves pushed in now. They've taken the Baron off the board. It stops Viperia maybe going for it in a later phase of play, but they have to look at these enemy minions coming in, losing towers by themselves, and this Baron power play is, it's not going to be a pretty penny, let me tell you that.
That's a lot of the wave clear as well, but Haas actually has to flash it away as the Mask of Jelly and Goose do a lot of work to Thresh, who would quite like that 400 gold shutdown, I suspect, at this point, and Thresh needs to be a little bit aware that Mask of Jelly very quick, haunting his footsteps, has got a Tempered Fate, but doesn't look for anything more. Would have been perhaps a little bold to go into the 1v2 as a support bard, but you never know. And
I mean, have you seen the meep slaps with fully stacked Deadmans? It's last season when we had the Spell Thieves Sheen Deadman's rapid fire cannon with like a Kerchi's shard. That was the true peak bard experience.
Yeah, that one was okay. So you know, like obviously in D&D, you get the vicious mockery. That's kind of like vicious mockery's League of Legends style. Just slap people in the face with some chuckling meat. Killikin and Synapse there now dueling it out in mid lane. Tempered Fate lands onto Kaz though. That is critical. They time it well, and Xayah is dead before the ult can be popped. Feathers don't fly, and they are down an AD carry, and now Baron push can continue for what it's worth. Mid lane tier 2 under siege. The 5v4 is there, but that's a good death sentence, but they don't feel they can go in on it.
That's a huge pick, of course. Not having the AD carry, who is so strong at this point. 2.5 items. Kaz off the board. Monster Rugby get to use the last of their Baron buff to at least achieve something with the map pressure they should have had for the entirety of that buff, without, of course, the first fight going so poorly for them. And this game is much like the rest of it, still on the knife's edge. It's hard fought, maybe because of some of the misplays coming out from these teams, but hard fought nonetheless. And both of these teams are really, really trying to scramble over that finish line.
It is roughly a 2,500 gold lead to Viperia, but that doesn't mean that much here at the 26-minute mark. Doesn't mean that much with who's got the kills. Kai'Sa is strong, so is Orianna. Graves ain't too bad himself. On the other side, of course, you can look around and you can see Vladimir doing very well for himself. So is Killikin on this Yone. And these are people you've got to keep your eyes on in these team fights as they stand. Davidoff will secure that top lane tier 1. And we're going to take a little bit of a pause, a respite here before the dragon spawns in a minute, and the bloodshed will surely start again.
And I think one of the really interesting things about seeing a game like this is these teams will have no idea where the wards are on the map now, because you look at these teams and they've basically been base to base in the last couple of minutes. They could have dropped wards at any point. As you can see, Viperia have got wards right inside the enemy jungle, but the same with Munster on the other side around that Baron. And that means that Synapse is walking into enemy vision, is tanky enough to get it. Well, going in with the Olives Killikin.
Yeah, he is. Gets knocked back and forth. But I don't know how much you were really going to be able to get out of that with the cast compared to the Soul Unbound. Johnny Record did have to flash the Tempered Fate, though. Mask of Jelly has definitely forced a lot of summoners of that ability this game. Credit where it's due. But now there is a Synapse with a very low health bar, which is not what you want to see from your frontline tank and engage option. But Killikin is down the Ignite and the ult himself, which is also a big deal this early on. Killikin still dueling it out with this Gragas, who definitely coming a little worse for wear. Monster Rugby looking to get mid lane priority, and it's Drake 15 seconds away from spawning, and I can feel the bloodlust coming through. Shockwave comes out, but so does Redemption. In comes Killikin looking for more. Lows asleep goes the Mask of Jelly, and Kaz gets that one. Down the initial man on Monster Rugby Gaming, down their playmaking support, and they'll have to play out this Infernal Soul point fight down a man. If they even want to take it, I think they're retreating, Chimera.
They are, and the large reason of that is exactly what you said. It's only for Infernal Soul point. Viperia now have 2 of those Infernal Dragons. Those stats are very worthwhile. If Keverman dies, that's a different question altogether. Haas is looking for it.
Supercharges, and Soul Unbound doesn't have quite long enough reach, and Yone goes slamming back into his own body, and that'll be the end of it.
It's worth looking at for the potential outplay, but Keverman gets out safely with the Gale Force, of course, one of those items which has added an extra dimension to AD carry play with the ability to use it aggressively, or of course defensively on the same, on the opposite side of that coin as well. Now we're looking at a minute until the next Baron, and that means that, particularly for Viperia, they're looking to take what they won off of that last fight, push in the waves, reset, maybe then try and wrangle over the control of the vision, which has been so back and forth in this game, and try and head into that Baron fight and finally get themselves one of these decisive team fight wins, which has been really missing from both of these teams, to finally put those nails in the coffin.
And it is very even, but Viperia currently, with that slight kill advantage now with the dragon advantage, definitely fairly scary. They've got that 1 tower advantage as well, and Vladimir, 3 items.
Oh,
really
Mask?
Scary. Haas getting in a bit of a fight here with the Mask, but that means now Killikin stuck in a difficult spot, but the Temper Fate won't find as much as they wanted. Bit of an aggressive magical journey, but ult burn from the Mask of Jelly. I nearly called him by the ultimate name, which would have been a bit ironic, really. But now he needs to try and retreat. Killikin stepping forward with the Fate. Sealed, looking for more damage. The Hemoblade comes out as well. And Infor in the backside has to go golden to avoid the Shockwave, but avoid it he does. And Monster Rugby Gaming now down a lot of health bars. They are still alive. No one dies. They're going to have to retreat away from this Baron with stinging half HP on a number of people.
The word to describe this game is frantic. Both teams looking for the leg up. The edge in the fight. Once again, Killikin popping over the wall. And it's a fight erupting in the river.
There comes the Redemption to buy some health, but Johnny Recco at half HP is a worry. Lilting Lullaby not popped. Killikin flashes in with the Mortal Will, but he gets shut down. Graves claims that bounty quite happily. End of the line indeed, but now Davidoff in a difficult spot. Flashes over the wall, survives. Synapse back in though, and that's pretty damn fabulous. Goose on a killing spree, but Infor now looking at all these low health bars. He just needs 1. He can't find it. Shut down. It's a 1-for-1 with Keverman and Infor, but you take that 4-for-1 easily in favor of Monster Gaming, but the health bars are too low to even consider going for this Baron. The hook onto Goose is good, but forced to teleport a little more.
It forces basically nothing, and it is once again frantic, but Munster do get the final edge in that fight. They will get themselves, presumably, their second Baron of the game. There is no teleport to be used on the likes of this Yone, and Haas is looking for a miracle, if that, and with the Temper Fate going down, he's just a lamb to the slaughter.
Command attack, command dissonance, the flash over. Mask of Jelly will go hunting, and supportal combat it is, but meep goes the Mask of Jelly, and that's not a train you're going to survive against. Nice idea with the death sentence. but it will be Bard that claims a 700 gold shutdown on the opposing support.
Of course, had those 4 kills in a row. That's relatively important, I guess. It's still a good amount of gold going across. But what's even more important about that is that now Haas on this Thrasher is the support, the main ward placer of the team, is dead for because of course they delayed his death for another good 10-15 seconds. And that can be really important when you've only got 1 minute 20 on the next Infernal Dragon spawn. Viperio, who of course are on that sole point, maybe won't have as much ward coverage, or at least not get it in as timely a fashion as they might need to contest said Vision for this next Dragon.
3 items on Graves, 3 items on Orianna, 3.5 for Kai'Sa. And speaking of Kai'Sa,
no.
Keverman deletes Xayah. It'll be chicken for breakfast, boys. And that's just as the Infernal Drake is about to spawn. That's with the Baron buff alive on Munster and Viperio. That's a couple mistakes in a row you cannot afford to give away.
But on the other side, it's the forced error, right? The Thresh was still dead. Maybe take that 10 seconds off that death timer and allow House to walk further in. Yeah, naturally, maybe that Xayah doesn't get picked in the same situation. Nevertheless, that is what happened. Kaz was the first one into the fray, and now they've gone down at a very important junction during this game, and Munster Rugby take themselves the lead. Again, for the 4th time, I suppose.
It's been back and forth, but this is a fairly significant lead, and the Tempered Fate comes out on Haas. Not like this. The cask was mistimed, but the death comes through anyway. Goose gets his 5th kill, 5, 1, and 7 on the Graves, having a pretty stellar one himself, and that's another pick. That'll be another opportunity for Monster Rugby in this late game to look for another objective of slightly overeager positioning.
And it seems like Munster Rugby Gaming have found their composure in this late game scenario where Viperio have struggled to keep themselves on the right parts of the map, in the right positioning with the right vision. Once again, it seems like they're a little bit rudderless at this point, while we've got the likes of this Bard and this Graves and of course the Kai'Sa too thriving in the broken play.
Absolutely, and the Baron is off, but look at the vision game. You're trying to face check into so much pick. Face check? The magical journal is here. And Monster Rugby say, hey guys, missed you. We thought we'd come and say hello and just take a top or bot tier 2 while we're at it. I don't think Viperio were particularly happy about those party crashes.
No, okay, so calming it back down for the first time in quite a while at this point. Lots happened between that Dragon and the Baron just beforehand. Of course, we have to start asking ourselves, and the players should start asking themselves too. It's a very important thing to keep track of. Munster will be sat in their comms, and it should be really important for them to ask, how do we lose a fight at this point? Unironically, that magical journey, if it is positioned wrongly and Viperio are there to respond, if they get in there with a perfect Yone ultimate, into the feathers, into everything else, that can lose you the game. While it has helped, because of course Viperio have been splitting themselves up and allowed themselves to be picked off, on the opposite side of it, if they are there with all their 5 pieces on the board in the right place, they have enough damage in this late game to end the team fight very quickly.
Mask of Jelly throws out another one of those Temper Fates, and it lands. Yone might seal fates, but Bard will temper them first. Doesn't matter though, because the Mask of Jelly goes down, and it turns out Yone's read on fate is better than Munster's. It's 2 kills already. Xayah gets 1, Killerkin got the other, and now in the 3 versus 5, Munster need to retreat. They finally lost a fight. Johnny Recco looking for the flash, blooming blows, and the Dream Dust will send David off and Goose towards an endless sleep, surely, but not before Graves finds one back with the shotgun. I feel like I've watched that Disney movie before, but Killerkin gets the shot down anyway. And now Davidoff with 100 HP needs to try and survive. He's got the command protect. That's good work and does survive for now. But he's got to get back and heal. He's got to cut this wave down because I think Viperio can look to end.
They can do. They've got themselves a 2-man advantage, and that includes the AD carry being alive for them, and of course, Keverman being dead for Munster Rugby. It looks like they're going to back out after just the inhibitor, maybe because of that low health bar.
Risky.
On the Thresh, they don't want to lose Haas again too early into a phase of play. Mask of Jelly doesn't have the ultimate right now, but when you have the magical journey, chase downs can become very deadly in these long, elongated journeys across the map.
Don't keep going forward, but Synapse belly bopping his way forwards, looking to see if he can get onto Vladimir. And that means with the Baron spawn and the resets as they are, and Johnny Recco only now coming back onto the map, Monster Rugby could actually look to try and go towards
there's no ult on Kaz.
Oh, there's not, and he gets chucked in. They're going to try and time out the blast block while they knock him away. The Fate Shield is good, but the Shockwave is better. And that means that Keverman will claim another life of Kaz. He's dead for the 5th time this game. He'll be dead for a significant amount of time, will not be around as the Baron spawns, likely, because he'll have to come out of base. And that's a big loss from Viperio.
And now the shoes on the other foot. Once again, it's the AD carry dead for Viperio now. Munster have themselves a chance to push for something in the base, but of course with that mid inhibitor down, they would have to be forcing onto Nexus turrets. Not really wise when you do have a 4-item Vladimir with ultimate at level 17 alive and well in this game. In fact, that pick is just going to lead to a free reset, so Viperio getting off lightly from that one.
They are, but Kaz still dead for 10 seconds. Baron spawning in 25. That will give about a 15-second window for Kaz to desperately rush out and get in position to fight for either one of these objectives, it feels like. Infernal Drake's up in a minute and 10. Baron now in 10. This gets very tight very quickly. And if people start rushing objectives, we could see the end of this game coming in the next few moments.
But in this kind of scenario, stuff like Threshlands and stuff like Magical Journey almost act like pseudo semi-global abilities, because if they can help you reach an objective some seconds earlier, like this Baron which is spawned while the Dragon on the other side isn't yet to, they can save you these seconds which are so crucial in these team fights.
It's down to a third HP. There comes the far side alteration trinket, and it's still too late. Baron secured. Now Munster will be going with those additional stats. With that wave control, can look for this Infernal Soul. Both teams at that soul point. Killikin round the flank looking for something. The Hemoplague is good. Davidoff is in trouble. Fate sealed again, and Infor gets the kill. But now Shutdown comes out onto Gragas as well. It's 2 dead. Lilting Lullaby is popped onto Graves, who is now surely about to pop down. Watch out! Eep alongside Zaya means a double kill, and Viperio find the fight they need in the late game. And with everybody but the Mask of Jelly dead, this is surely game for Viperio, but my days was it back and forth.
The pens finally put to paper. This wave will crash in. 4 out of the 5 members of Viperio alive and well at the Nexus, and it's hard for 1 kill in it. Less gold, and it will be the game.
And once again, we're paused around about. I promise you that means it's ended. I promise you that means Viperio get it. But that is a screenshot before disaster. Viperio out 21 kills to 20. They are the victors. And there is your screenshot, ladies and gentlemen. Screenshot of supportal combat. 5-4 and 14. 2-4 and 16. It was quite something, Nightmare.
It was screenshots. It's like pictures which precede fortunate or unfortunate events. That's the one. That's what we've got. We've got the old Morpheus thing of, well, you know, choose your own adventure. Take the blue pill, Viperio won. Take the red. You know how it goes.
Absolutely. It was a close run thing. Both of these teams 0 and 2. Both of these teams came out to play. Munster got all the Barons, I believe, that game. Looked like they could kind of find some of those team fights with the easier engage options, but Hillikin and, of course, Infor in those late-game team fights with the Hemoplague plus Fate Sealed were deadly. Kaz, when he got to stay alive, those feathers pretty dangerous as well.
For sure. I think if I was going to give an MVP, it probably would end up being Infor, because in a game with so many picks, so many unwise decisions, and of course a lot of those are forced errors, right? If we use the tennis analogy, they're forced errors, not unforced errors, because like you're definitely looking back and being like, okay, well, you need to fight for vision, you need to fight for this. Infor was the player who was kind of, I guess, not involved in that list. They weren't picked in the same way. They survived a lot of those situations, got a lot of pressure, but it was toe-to-toe, and hopefully Viperio can use this to regain themselves some momentum. But Munster did put up a fight, a very good fight. This game well and truly could be theirs. They should get lost in the negativity of that and more say, okay, we can build on some of the better things we did, particularly around picks and vision in this game, to go into week 3. Or, of course, the next game this week.
Of course, yeah. And, of course, I'll be playing again on Saturday, I believe, along with the rest of the league. But that does mean we have to go to a quick break. And when we come back, we will have London United versus Demise Academy. Top of the table clash. You don't want to miss it. Stick around and we'll be right back. welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the UKEL Week 2 here. It's been a bit of a bloody one. We had our 2-0-2 teams facing off, and it is Viperio that came out ahead versus Munster Rugby Gaming. It was back and forth. Honestly, I was pretty happy to see Munster Rugby Gaming step up and compete. Viperio as well, not giving in as well. So it was messy, it was back and forth. It wasn't a clean end, but I'm glad we saw some life in these teams.
Sure, and it was a scrappy game. No means the most clean thing we've seen on the Rift in the last couple of weeks. But it was something which Viperia will build on, right? They take themselves the first win of this split of UKEL. Munster will also have good phases of play that they can take away from. Of course, it's not the same as that one in the win column. They'll have to go on to their next game on Saturday to see if they can pick that one up.
Yeah, but that does mean we have to turn our eyes to this next game. And at the absolute opposite end of the table, we have our two teams that kicked off the split with an absolute hot streak. Demise Academy and London United both sit at 2-0 in the standings. One of them will not be undefeated by the time we're done today.
For sure, and they sit alongside Nerd Rage at that 2-0 scoreline, and yes, this is the other end. One of these best performing teams from week 1 has to fall, and honestly, it's quite hard to call this game between them, because both of these teams had very, very strong performances in that first week. Again, I got to cast that one Demise win where Sin played his Ignite Yone top lane, and we had that fantastic ace. That's one of the highlight clips that we'll be taking forward, as sure. You'll be absolutely certain to see that one again. But then, of course, on the other side, we have some very skilled players on the London team looking to, of course, just knock down this academy team and retain themselves that top of the tree standing.
So I know when we were sort of trying to set up some of our sort of like prep for this match, prep for like who we wanted to really focus on, we sort of thought, well, do we want to talk about the top lane? Obviously, Sin has been a bit of a nutter, just refuses to take flash. It's Ignite or die. He's played Kaiser top, and all that kind of crazy stuff. But we also thought, well, maybe actually we ought to be thinking a little bit about that bot lane, because of course Fuyu and Kumkum are pretty great in and of themselves as well.
For sure. And I mean, I think for me, it's also the kind of looking at, okay, well, we know that Victoria's on the Rift too, and often Victoria's really good at like nullifying laning phases and nullifying those matchups. You're a very good on player, of course. So there's a chance if we say, okay, if we do say top lane, even though they're very skilled players, we might not get the flashiest outplays coming out of there, because of course they're working to make sure it's very stable up there to work around the rest of the map and teleport in and win team fights. Whereas on the bottom side of the map, completely opposite. We've got Fuyu versus Kumkum, as you were saying, and they tend to pick more of these Kai'Sa, Samira pop-off champions where we're more likely to get another highlight play from.
And I know I've got a note from you about, obviously you've got the Heathen on one side as well. It's like, the Heathen plays engage, underlined. Like, it's the same sort of deal for both of these bot lanes in general, right? Where they really want to go in, not just as the AD carries themselves, but the supports that are paired alongside them are hardly shy players.
Absolutely not, and I really hope that they don't go into this shy, because they've had that first week to build that confidence and came out pretty steaming ahead of the competition, and they have every right to retain that confidence. And I do hope that they bring that into this game, because it means that we get to cast ourselves a really good bloodbath again.
2 years, but we are now into picks and bans. Demise Academy will be taking on the blue side, which means London United will be over on the red. Some bans are coming out originally. It'll be, I nearly called it Articuno, but it is a Nivea away from Articuno, and I will forever be haunted by my Pokemon days in my youth.
I was about to say, it doesn't help that Articuno is actually one of my favorite Pokemon.
I know, right?
And on the other side, of course, a little more meta standard, the Kai'Sa being taken away. That being said, of course, the Nivea is ridiculously strong in the hands of...
Is it meta when you play it top lane with Ignite at that point? Is it?
There's a point where it was like the kind of thing where back in season 6 and particularly season 6, we had like the Iceborne Gauntlet, Frost, Sunfire Cape build. It's like it's technically like, oh, is it really meta if you play Assassin's top with all? It's like, well, it kind of is, but it's just that when these items are really strong, you can build them on absolutely anyone. Like, well, what even counts as meta at that point? Nidalee certainly does, taken away from Mara on the side of United. It's very strong across pretty much every player in the UKL in that jungle role has picked up this pick to some proficiency, normally quite a high one. Of course, Taliyah's the other one, and then you're looking at stuff like Pantheon, still quite a high priority, and I wouldn't be surprised with either something like a first pick, Olaf, Rel, or Samira, because they all tend to fit these teams' playstyles of the all-in kind of factors.
Yeah, like, the thing is, all I'm good getting rid of the Nidalee, and I rate it, because obviously Nidalee at the minute, very good pairing up with a number of these CC top laners. obviously Nidalee in that very similar space. You pair either up with the likes of Renekton and the top laner has a really horrible time. But, Mauer still has a lot of other champions you go towards it. Olaf still available, Graves still available, Lilia, Hecarim. But that kind of still holds true, of course, on the other side as well for Leon, who has a similar champion pool.
For sure. And honestly, again, we kind of have this little moment to set aside and saying, okay, so what are the contested picks going to be? What are we likely to see? And honestly, a lot of these players share a lot of jungle champions. You can play a lot of things in the jungle right now. Olaf is shared across pretty much everyone across the board, and now we are looking more towards. I mean, there's the Graves, Hecarim. The Graves actually be locked in this case. Does do pretty well into Olaf. You can have the ability to kite out that pick. And with the Karma, Olaf might find themselves having a bit of a tough time cutting through all those HP bars when you've got an extra 400 HP to go through.
Dawn of the third pick, look to a Enchanter who might well be picking up the Moonstaff and the Staff, or Moonstone Renewer, there we go.
See, I would really appreciate that reference if it was actually the third. Oh, technically it is the third pick, actually. Yeah.
It is the third pick, and it would have been the fifth day, but I had to, I corrected it for what was going on in the situation, you see, because I am clever and able to change my sentences like that.
That's quite important, though. So the Jhin being locked in...
What, me being able to change my sentences? Yes, it is.
I don't know. The Jhin being locked in is what I am angling towards myself. Because when you've got the ability to kite away from something like the Olaf, pinning them in place denies you that mobility, even if it is with that move speed and of course the Graves, multiple dashes coming in from stuff like the ult, the E, and Gale Force if you end up building that too. Jhin is strong in his own right. He doesn't fall down in that DPS check like some of the AD carry, well, he has in the past seasons. Speaking of DPS, we're going to have ourselves an Ashe support, I'd imagine. It's going to be Imperial Mandate. It's going to have stuff like a Muramana and a Tiamat, maybe. And yes, cool.
Right, double checking in to make sure that was indeed a proxy pick. It's Leona, unfortunately.
Oh, come on.
I went to double check in production thinking, is that going to be a proxy pick? It was a proxy pick, guys. Especially as Namera's like, it's Imperial Mandate, it's Poke, Volley first, Nightmare Ashe support.
Jhin Ashe is probably not an awful duo as well.
Probably not. You're actually really not wrong.
You have the ability to affect the map like a lot. Okay, whatever. I guess I can't talk about it now. Is the center actually real as well, Sam?
I'm not seeing any pings from production, so until I do, that is indeed Senna locked in. Tell me about Senna in the current meta.
It's a champion in League of Legends played in the bot lane. What else do you want to know? Ashe is another one of those champions, by the way.
Look, your bitterness, I understand. Take it out onto my academy. Don't take it.
Look, I do all this work.
You're your caster. Be professional. You got to step it up and enjoy Leona. Tell me about why Leona's great.
Leona's standards. I have standards. Okay, right. So we see.
You're an Ari main. What standards can you really have?
Yes. Okay. Right. Fair play. Fair play indeed. So we have the Malphite being banned away. That's pretty important when you have something like the Jhin, which is a very static backline, and there's only so much you can disengage from the likes of that Malphite. I think looking at the Yone and the TF, strong split push threats, and of course that Yone did go up towards the top side and send that one game for demise, and it does help when you got stuff like Leona. It's not the Gragas support which they were playing. I mean, Little Pants had a really good game in that same game, but it's really important to have to take away pieces which they might be comfortable with, like these heavy wombo combo team fight picks, and a couple of them have been removed already.
Absolutely, and looking over the side, of course, Malphite, Jax, we kind of mentioned, are big options, right? Like Victoria, for all that we said, kind of likes the likes of Ornn, Renekton. Got a couple bits in there, like the Volibear and the Jax, which are a little bit more brawl-heavy. But speaking of Ornn, locked in. That will be that top lane option for Victoria. You can sort of see right now, with Karma and Ornn and Senna, lots of semi-global kind of ability, lots of team fight utility in the CC.
Are they thinking about picking an Enchanter top into Ornn? That would be something.
Bold. Of course, if it's locked in, it would be something special. Instead, they go towards the Camille, which feels a little bit more standard. And of course, Camille is also being run at top levels of play with teleport and ignite, which is something that Sin has basically done ad infinitum this split right now.
And
I mean,
now you can look at and now you can also look at something like the Galio, which enables something like the Olaf. Of course, does that for the Camille. Leona's not bad with it either, right? You're gonna have that ability to dash in. And start playing around that big amount of, well, the big gargoyle coming in. Instead, it's actually going to be the Rise. I don't mind it. It's still got that 1-3-1 potential and the ability to run teleport and, of course, have the Realm Warp 2 to appear. Yeah. It's not the same kind of wombo with your big engage, but doing that against Senna or Karma, which is such high disengage, has the healing, has the shielding and all that, like,
Yeah.
probably not a bad idea to add in a little bit more DPS themselves. If we're going to get ourselves the Rise Cassiopeia check, though, this can be a very skill-based matchup in that mid lane. Victor is also not bad, but the last time we saw Karosh play against that Victor, completely slammed their lane opponent in the late game.
Yeah. All right, so we've seen these rosters. Of course, we're going to have a quick remake, guys, to go through without the proxy pick in the way. Again, that Ashe, not an Ashe, it's a Leona. We've already heard Nightmare's rage about that. Slight facetiousness aside, we've seen the rosters. Pretty obvious 1-3-1 comp from the side of Demise Academy. Camille, Rise in the side lanes have Jhin, Olaf, Leona turning up to support where needed. Curtain Call and the likes, very easy to follow up from a long way away.
And yeah, another really important thing to me is I look at Demise's comp immediately and I think, okay, if they get Rise versus the Ornn and the Camille versus the Victor in a side lane, if you do actually end up, ending up in that lane assignment, it is horrible for the side of London United. Camille solo kills the Victor all day, and the Rise has enough DPS and the continued damage output to deal with something like the Ornn. Like, that's the kind of point where you lose both towers dies 1v1 on both sides of the map if the game goes a certain way and these champions have enough gold. So it's going to be another game, for me at least, looking about how these teams handle lane assignments. That does seem to be a thing which is commonly occurring once again, once we're heading more into these 1-3-1 style of games, with a lot of stuff like AD carries moving to mid lane and the side lane is, well, the solo lane is moving out to respective side lanes. And while Victor and Ornn are very good at normally wave clearing and holding down a tower, against this, might be a bit difficult.
What I will say, though, is that London United, while in that 1-3-1 in those isolated lane matchups, might be having some difficulty. Hit team fights, Graves, Victor, Ornn, with a Senna and a Karma behind them to offer some shields and utility, is a nightmare. And there's not that much of a front line outside of a Leona and a pseudo-tanky Olaf.
So you're completely right on that. But there are only so many objectives in the game in terms of, like, they're not always up, right? You're not always fighting around an objective. The question is, how are London United going to play around the times when there aren't objectives up? And we do have to go into that that kind of those transitionary pieces of play between Baron and Herald and Dragon Spawns and all the like of that. It does help you got a center roll. That does help in some of these kind of moments. But we saw how fed that Rise got in the previous game last week from the side of Demise. And it's not like Olaf is bad at following up on these ganks, even though stuff like the Graves can do a similar thing. So I still think the onus is on London to keep themselves safe between objective fights rather than on Demise necessarily making those plays, because the inherent threat is quite potent.
And you can see, the thing is, if Demise Academy, at the top of the table as they are, they've picked a bold composition. 1-3-1s are not easy to pull off. They require good vision control, great communication. You've got to be at the right places in your lanes. But if you can do it, you can really put this London United team under the cosh. That said, if it gets to late game, and you're suddenly fighting around a 40-minute Baron because you can't split push cleanly enough to get into the tower and end it, suddenly things get a bit scary around Elder Dragon. Suddenly things get a bit scary around second, third Barons, and that is my worry here, potentially, if they don't play the 1-3-1 cleanly.
That's true. That is very true, because at the end of the day, London have themselves a really big Mega Death Ball comp. You're going to be running forward with a range advantage across your entire team, because you've got long-range engage and long-range DPS. You just have the ability to outrange this team. So if you end up first to an objective, heck, if you end up second to an objective, as long as the Ornn's walking in first, you're probably going to end up winning that DPS check. But it's just whether Demise end up getting enough leads from denying waves and diving and splitting the map very well before it gets to those points. And then you get flanking plays because you have to hastily set up for an objective, not having the correct sideline setup for these objective plays. And then Demise just run in through flanks like we've seen in various games in the past, and stop London forming that phalanx, which is so potent.
I'm really excited to see these two teams. It's very two diametrically opposed comps, but, hopefully both of these guys should be at a level where they can play out to the win conditions of both of their options. Strong in different areas. Hopefully, fingers crossed, this should be pretty exciting to keep our eyes on. And of course, the winner here will be moving to that coveted 3-0 spot, and the loser dropping down to what looks like a second place at the moment.
For sure. It depends, of course, what happens with that with the Nerd Rage games, which do happen. If they end up winning, then it might be jumped down to third, of course.
Yeah.
And then things get a but of course, on the other side of it, hey, there's a chance to sit alone on the throne at the end of week 2, depending on the games and how everything moves around you. But this is very important, because if these teams are going to consistently do well through the split, this is the time to take one of those games away from them, because you can't. It means that you're still You're not relying on other teams to do your dirty work for you.
All right, so let's take stock and kind of have a look about how this early game in particular is going to play. Where do you want to see Leon? Where do you want to see Mao? My eyes, interestingly, are probably either towards Camille or towards this Jinio lane, because there's just a lot of setup for Olaf there, and whether Graves wants to try and counter gank that best he can would be at least my initial reaction.
This is I think Mao is definitely more in the mindset of I'm setting up my lanes effectively, and I'm trying to counter Leon rather than, of course, like you were saying, trying to go for aggressive plays across the map. Because there's more setup in the lanes for Demise to start setting up plays. So for me, while there's no real obvious lane to gank up one over the others, I think, heck, it could even be mid lane with positioning your wave, right? Because there's no easy way out, like a Senna E and the Karma E in bot lane, and the Ornn, of course, having the Searing Charge and the W out. It could even be that, right? Because if Kurash ends up positioning the lane well, and this is something which, again, some laners in the mid lane do struggle at this line of play in terms of seeing where they want the wave for the next 4 to 5 minutes, well, next 2 minutes even, like that. It's just like, oh, I've got to have the wave here because of course the junglers are going to be free around the middle area of the map, and we're not really aiming for stuff like the Herald or the Dragon. I'm really looking to see what happens around how the laners set up their own opportunities effectively.
Okay, well, we'll keep our eyes on that and how the laners set up their opportunities. What's Nightmare's called out. Got opportunities for that. People
there's
like
CC in every lane, of course, for the side of
big time.
Side of yeah.
For Demise particularly, I agree.
The one.
Definitely to see how we're doing.
Oh, and I was like, oh no, who's blue side? Because they just disappeared off my screen. I'm like, oh man, there's a team on the blue. No, it's not. Nope, it's the other one. Crap.
I mean, there's like curse the Black Mist. I've got to get this. It's the Senna bind. Last Embrace. There we go. That's the Senna bind. You know, that's not bad.
Senna W.
Senna. Well, of course, he's the curse. I don't play Senna. I just know I know the names of them. Interestingly, there's a lot of champions I know by their letters. I actually know Senna's ability by name rather than by letters.
So what you're saying is you'd be a bit of a poor Viego player at this point in time.
Probably. I kind of want to give him a go. Actually, looks like quite a lot of fun. I don't think I probably would never take him to ranked.
My condolences to you and your LP.
I tell you, I'm not picking him up in ranked. I'll stick with Evelyn Elise, thank you. But yeah, I guess at this point, I do need to know. I was about to ask for a prediction of whether Sim would have gone for the Ignite top lane, and what do you know? Oh. 3 games out of 3, it's what he's gone for. LS might be screaming somewhere. Saints, and of course, Sin is aptly a sinner up here. I actually don't know what LS thinks about that. So
they actually might walk into this here.
Bold. All right, here we go. Level 1, Leon takes a big chunk. Tactical sweep buys time, but Mao are hopping forward, but they lose vision. He's got the sweep plant already, which means he doesn't get to see anything. And no sup with this ghost burn from Leon.
Ghost, yes.
Leon, yeah, that's, I was thinking, looking for the flash. Ghost, Olaf, not Flash, Olaf. So that'll be the summoner down, but it's not on the longest cooldown in fairness, Ghost, so shouldn't cause too much chaos unless Mao can find a very early invade.
He's just keeping his HP low for the extra attack speed. Yep.
That's exactly
so honestly,
Leon's
Leon's just completely destroyed this early game. Yeah, it's incredible, honestly. The brains on this player. No, of course. Is going to be starting off on that red buff, and losing the Ghost is important, and honestly Heathen gets like 2 or 3 procs of the Spell Thieves too. Gets that stacking a little bit earlier, which is a minor win in its own right. Now we go to see what's going to happen with, like I was saying, what's happening with laners setting up their own advantages and being able to set up the waves in the way that they want them to in regards to where the jungler is on the map.
Toy's already a little testy in that top lane. Sin was hiding in the bush, waiting for the Forge God to walk in. Got a couple nice autos there, but nothing too much to write home about. And everything else is just fighting over early control of this wave. But surprise, surprise, that's kind of what you expect around this level 1 mark. Minute, looks like Demise Academy might have a little bit of a shove in the bot side.
They do, and so Kurash had a pretty good level 1 to 2 where he's managed to. So he started with a tier, and the thing with new tier is that if you cast a spell on a target, that's when you get stacks. It does have it does have a cooldown. It's not like you can just do that, you know, without any kind of limit. But if you cast a spell which hits an enemy champion, it ends up doubling the amount of mana you get. As you can see, it's 51 stacks already, going up to 57, hitting a lot onto Articuno as it stands, and it actually ends up capping out at about 450. It's no longer the 750 amount altogether. He's doing a really good job of just getting wave control, not being under any threat right now, and getting all he wants from his starting item.
Yeah, Spell Flux definitely causing some chaos for Articuno there. Not particularly happy about that one, and Gonna have to keep an eye on those. I thought that was a kind of a breath of relief once that level 2 came through, because his health bar was getting a little scary. Of course, no Ignite in lane with a Rise, but at the same time, not what you want to see is Little Pants takes a bit of an ugly trade. Last Embrace comes through as well. The Ignite coming out. Little Pants has to flash away. Caught a little bit with his pants down, it turns out, that time out, and definitely a little aggressive in his positioning.
Yes, haha, you fool. You hit your center bind onto the minion, and then the minion dies and pops through anyway. Things get a bit dicey in that bot side. Returning back to what happened in that mid lane, we saw that Karash actually managed to get himself a bit of a cheated recall, although he ended up teleporting back to lane anyway, so he uses that just to keep himself up in mana after the early shove, gets himself early boots, refill on the refillable potion, and it's just kind of keeping the pressure on mid lane.
He is just throwing out QE, QE, QE. Anybody who spent a little bit of time on Reddit might remember the Rise mains paid a voiceover guy whose name I can't remember, basically just to say EQ, EQ, EQ for forever. It was a wonderful experience, and I suggest you look for it.
Yes, I mean, it's one of those things where you know when someone's a Rise main on Reddit when those those two buttons are just, well, I mean, if they're a Rise player in general, then those keys just don't work anymore. Like, they've been worn out.
It's just black.
It's like, you know, it's like, oh yes, why are you sending back this mechanical keyboard for? Well, it's wear and tear. What do you mean? You've had it for 2.5 days. Yeah, you understand the problem.
Blistering fury as EQ is pressed until the mana runs out, as Kurosh is hit level 5, but has got himself up to 105 stacks on the tier and will be backing away to pick up another quick recall. Has been burning through his mana very rapidly early on, but seems to be doing alright with it.
But also, like, the other part of this is it's denying a bit of farm away from Martikino. Of course, he hasn't got really much any of that that CS lead themselves, so actually not doing so much on that front. But it's allowing Leon to just have, like, uncontested jungle pathing, because so Mauer is never going to have Articuno responding to a roam from their lane. They don't have to teleport in, which makes things a little bit awkward. Sin has no flash, though. This could be the first play of the game.
Yeah, in goes the Searing Charge, looks for the hook shot, but gets interrupted by Mauer stepping in front. There's no flash, remember, and he'll pay for his arrogance. First, those deadly prides. It is a sin, and he will fall down.
Take a bow, Victorio. Cancels the hook shot as soon as it connects with the wall, so that's after Camille is already in flight towards the wall, has Brittle on them, uses the auto, knocks them up, cancels the animation, have no flash. That's a clean kill on that top side.
And we know Victorio is a good Ornn player, and who says Ornn can't make good plays? Camille not very happy with that one, falls down. Of course, it does give Leon time alone at this dragon level. For Olaf plus Drake equals first dragon. What a surprise. And Demise Academy at least get that back in trade.
They do, and meanwhile, mid lane's kind of just been isolated. You know, I was talking about, oh, wow, it's going to be maybe mid lane setting up their own No, it's not been that. Kurosh has been using the other side of Rise's kit, where you do have pretty good early push against some matchups. That's what has ended up making him a very viable pick. Across so many different seasons, the League lane's suffered a bit in the most recent one, but is finding his way back into some of these matchups, like the Victor, who does have that much shorter range, high DPS kind of range for that champion, right? Because that's right in the middle of where Rise wants to be, and he blows you up before you get to do your Q combo.
Well, Mauer is actually setting up for a lane gank in bot lane, you can see. He's hiding around in those bushes as Leon towards this top side might be looking to do the same with this Ornn, but now Mauer retreating, and there was a ward in the forward bush there. Anyway, we can see will be spotted out. Burned his sweeper, actually, so we won't be able to spot that out.
And Rise is heading towards top side with Olaf on the other side of things. So actually, so what Demise is saying is we're making the play top, play safe bot. They've got an Ignite. There is an Ornn ultimate. The wave hasn't hit tower yet. And actually, the realm will ping back to mid.
That was a bit disappointing. I was looking forward to that. They could definitely have forced that, I say, as a player who doesn't know
there
enough
is
about
that,
the
but
game.
like the danger is you're looking to reset aggro with the Camille, of course, but then like when you're playing against a full health Ornn who's got some items, have the ultimate too, you have 3 potential brittle procs coming through, which equals a lot of damage.
Yeah, it turns out it's not Call of the Forge God at that point. It's Call of the Tower outplay, and your best friend, Tower Heat, definitely starts stacking up nicely there. Articuno looking to help support his jungler as the red buff invade is started. Mauer and Victoria also around. Tactical keeps Camille coming around and about, but a little more to be found, and that leaves us with about a 300 to 400 gold lead for London United. But that's about it. That's just the first blood really that's changing anything here.
And what Demise are doing is they're showing themselves some restraint. Bot lane not showing quite as much as the Zenith Blade misses, so actually that's probably going to be the end of the trade there. What I was saying is, I'm not sure about that.
It is. They're stepping forward, looking to trade back with Glacial Augment Senna, which caused lots of slows for days and days. In goes the Zenith Blade. They're looking to trade around, but Little Pants so low, and the Heathen gets that one. It's one back, and now Kum and Little Pants fighting around about the cleanse comes out, but Little Pants so damn strong. Can't get the last kill with the Eclipse. The auto's hot there, and Kum gets Little Pants. It was desperately close. The level 6 advantage was there, but the curtains could be called. And London United come out ahead in the bot lane.
Really close outplay. Little Pants just missing the Zenith Blade. Of course, that Senna Q, it's not just the damage it does, it's the healing that comes through as well. And the net HP advantage towards London United's bot lane leads to a 1-4-1, but it is a kill to the Senna and to the Karma, whereas Jin misses out on the side of Demise.
Rush has roamed up again towards this top side. Leona is around as well, but nothing really easily found at that point. And 3-1 now in the kill score. It's that 2-for-1 trade in the bot side, but the Heathen has roamed forward and will find Little Pants and get stunned in place, even though the Defiance is now popped. Finding a renewal as well, that empowered W. Now looking to keep going forwards, but here come the rest of London United. They want to fight for this, and it's a 4 versus 3. Camille can't come down right now. She's got a wave to collect. That means Little Pants will take half the HP bar in trade, and Fuyu will just spend some time around on this bot lane, getting as much of these tower plates as he can.
Can do, but Victoria picks over the wave anyway. So it's not going to be like London United giving up waves for a Herald start. It's still going to be picked up by the Ornn, but it is maybe a wave or two away from the center on the other side. And
here we
there's
go.
An engage coming.
Sins goes in. He finds the hook up, remember, no flash goes in with that Hextech ultimatum, but the Dawning Shadow out as well. The Heathen slays Sin, but it's a 1-for-1, and there is Leon gets a double. Make that 2-for-1 right now. The axes are flying. The undertows are there. Overload, Spell Flux, Kurosh gets one. Can you say EQ any louder? Gravity Field is there. Flash out from Articuno, who is wishing there was a couple more legendary birds around to help out. As Kurosh is there, and that Rune Prison about to come out. The Undertow around as well. Articuno, I choose you for the Death Chamber. Kurosh gets that one. 2-0. Rise 2-0. Olaf 0-2 into Sim, but he did his job there. And I believe Olaf got the Herald as well. So Demise Academy coming up with a much-needed win around that.
Oh, they get away with murder, and murder they do. Turns out business is killing, and business is booming. As you can notice, the only people that weren't involved in that were the Jin and the Ornn. And Victorio tried to teleport in, but did it in vision of Fuyu, gets the auto attack, roots them with the W, cancels that, and suddenly you think, actually, looking at the HP bars involved, London could have taken that fight with the Call of the Forge God. But of course that's not, and what ended up happening, they'll have to try again at this dragon, and we'll see if Demise wants to contest this one.
Absolutely. Already got the one dragon lead. Demise Academy around and about, but I don't know how easy it would be to look for the steal. They're just going to give this one up. Fuyu and Little Pants will return to lane, and yeah, United pick up the first dragon of the game, and we've got this time the goal lead at the 10-minute mark flipped over in Demise Academy's favor after they got that big outplay around the Rift Herald, getting away with, as you put it, murder. And they're going to have to see what they can do with this Herald. Still got a couple minutes left before plates run out. Kum stepping forward with those auto queue trades onto Jin, who's not very happy about that one. And Kurosh is doing what Risers do, namely stealing away Raptors, gets the big one as well. But now he's in a bit of a difficult spot. But Leon's here as well. What's that Pokemon? It's sure as hell a Pikachu, because Articuno slays Rise. But turns out Ragnarocking Olaf is more than able to turn around the kill for a 1-for-1.
It's a 1-for-1, but remember Victor's passive nowadays. You get yourself kill involvement, and you get yourself shards towards your next upgraded regular ability. Has 2 on the board now. That's an extra 50, which is halfway towards one of them. Alongside the farm they've already picked up, that's probably gotten towards their 2 first upgrades already. But what's the cost of all things involved? It's, of course, dying, and it's full 5 plates over to Leon's Olaf.
Alex, we've been over this. Pokemon don't die, they faint. Come on.
Okay, cool. Yes, you're
so
right. Okay.
He's been
Gotta protect the innocent souls out there.
I don't
wow,
think Olaf
Articuno was brutally murdered.
By a Viking with a giant flail called a Gourd
okay.
Drinker. Yeah, that's a regular item you find in and around, like, say, the Zubats in caves in Pokemon, right?
For sure. But I mean, I guess bringing things little bit back to normality. Again, we're looking at all these trades across the board, and actually looking at how Sin is.
Boy,
Well, looking at
I'm
Sin,
gonna
and he's
have
going to
take
get a
you
dive
off.
partner
He
involved
is,
here.
but Mauer's here to try and turn this around. The corner forge comes out, and we call this out already. Sin goes low, goes down. Victoria also low. Ragnarok. Olaf will get one back, but Mauer's got two. Graves gets that 2 for 1, and now Olaf needs to run away from Articuno, who spies vengeance. Death Ray comes out, can't quite find the kill. The gravity field is there. Mauer drawing forwards with that quickness. Way to phrase quick draw. Death Ray not quite enough, and it'll just be the 2 for 1. But London United turn around the dive. Not quite enough prep and good placement from Mauer to turn that one around.
Very good pathing from the Graves, gets up there, and of course, diving in on is dangerous. Of course, I actually think right there it would have been pretty fine if you didn't have the extra teammates coming in, but London were ready and waiting to respond. They've turned around the play. It's only the Ghost on the Olaf with the continued move speed that ends up getting Leon out safely.
Of course, they at least get one back, so it's not as disastrous as it could have been, but still pretty bad. And Orn gets 3 assists. That's... Victor didn't actually get any assists, though. It's a bit of a frustration for him, of course, but it get Graves 2 kills. He was a long way behind in this game. He's now much more in the mix here. You're matching somewhat this Olaf at 4-0-1, who is also a serious terror at Leon right now. And I think we might get a chance to go for a little breather, briefly. 10 seconds till plates fall and 2 minutes till the next Drake. So let's take stock of some of these items, perhaps. Or we might be able to. I think Victoria goes straight onto Sid, who's a little bit under tower. He needs to find his way out and takes a big brittle proc trade, actually. Now got to try and find his way out.
Oh, he doesn't get the plate.
Doesn't get the plate either. And you can see the idea. Just falls off. Takes half his HP as well, but of course, might be looking to reset relatively soon anyway. But Honey Fruit in the River saves him that awkward trip home.
Yes. Got himself a pit stop. I have to say one thing which I'm really liking about the Rise play which Demise are showing right now is it's basically just, well, I mean, saying that, it's blink and you miss it, it's going right top lane again.
Gonna try and get as much damage down as he can, but that will now mean Hextech Ultimatum is down for half the HP of Orn, so not the greatest trade ever. Still, it keeps Orn under tower, and he's got about 20-odd seconds left until Fall of the Forge God is up. Perhaps they look for another one of these dives. We'll have to wait and see. Rift Herald number 2 will be spawning relatively soon as well, and Demise Academy actually might be favoring that option over the Mountain Drake right now.
So, I mean, of course we saw the all-in from Sin, and the reason I thought it was going to turn into something bigger is because of how Demise and Kurosh in particular have been playing. It's just like trying to make London United blink first. They're just making sure that Rise is always off vision, getting himself some more move speed, has flash, could maybe go for a flash EW onto Articuno, doesn't end up going for it, but this is what's happened. It's always the implied threat. They're under tower as Victoria thinking, am I going to get dove at this point? And if you can ever make someone like these two get themselves caught out, it's a lot of wins.
The Realm Warp brings the party. Leon's unstoppable. Senna is certainly not, and the Heathen will be punished for his crimes. Kurosh taking on the mantle of the Inquisition. Victoria turns up, but it's a double kill to Demise Academy. They are now on the wrong side of the tower. They've got a wave that has now fallen. They've got to find a way out. Little Pants goes down, and they will trade one back. Leon needs to make his way out, but there's no blast cone, no flash, no hope. Death Ray will not secure it, but collateral damage will, and that makes it a 2-for-2 trade overall. But the Mountain Drake has spawned, and the jungler is dead.
Before my words got ahead of me, what I was saying is that what Demise are doing with this Rise, they're trying to make London United blink first. This time, well, actually, for most of this game, they've been holding that gaze pretty well. They've been saying, yeah, okay, you can make this play, but we're confident enough that we can outplay it. They did it in top side. They actually did it again just then on that bottom side. And of course, it ends up with the extra dragon going the way of Demise, but London are still trying to roll with the punches and throw in a few of their own.
Absolutely, and now Sin in a spot upon with Articuno looking for that kill onto Sin with the Ignite coming down from... I'm not actually sure what. That might just be burned from Leandri.
That's Leandri's.
There we go.
Oh no, it's me and the blue buffs all over again.
I saw fire graphics and made an assumption. I was like, is Victor running Ignite? No? Okay, that makes much more sense. But now actually they might be looking for the ping onto Victor. There's Leona coming down as well.
Yeah, Articuno's a bit of trouble
on that. He is in a spot of ball. The Solar Flag comes out, but the Hextech Ultimatum as well as there. There's an Ignite that can be burned if required. But a Precision Protocol will take the head of Victor. The glorious evolution is silenced very swiftly by Piltover's very own secret police.
That's I love it when I get proved right for my pick and ban predictions. If you get that Victor versus the Camille, yeah, expect Articuno to die. Of course, that is, of course, Little Pants coming over too. Sin now going to have to run away from Mauer. Does end up doing that, fine. But this is the lane assignments that Demise won, and probably not position Little Pants once.
He might be having some brown pants in a moment or two, because here comes 3 members. The Rammer's OK comes out, but I think it should be a This Is Fine emote, because It's really not a fine. Last Embrace comes through, and it should really be last rights, because Leona dies for the 4th time this game. Ave, Atke, Valet, hail and farewell. You, Targonian have to take that one for granted, as Kurosh and Leon get the Herald in trade.
And this is I'm really enjoying watching. If you just look at the minimap and seeing how as soon as someone shows on vision somewhere, everyone else just either swarms the location or immediately has a second plan of action involved. And this is probably why both of these teams have been up in that 2-0 scoreline, right? They've been here and they've had the right instincts. Every time a player's made, they're immediately just pinging off somewhere else saying, okay, this is probably not a winnable fight, or this is a winnable fight, let's fight it. But they're all on the same page, and that's what's keeping both of these teams neck and neck at this point in the game at 18 minutes.
It is still actually, though, despite the kills being even a 4k gold lead to Demise Academy right now, or just under, more like 3.5 with the way gold is kind of flexing around right now. But that means that this 1-3-1 is set up. The towers have gone out, and those Arise ult in. They're looking to get onto Mao, who does hop over the wall. The Deadly Flourish misses. Mauer gets away. The curtain call now cancelled. Victoria trying to get the shove in. Look at Little Pants in the back end, cause some chaos but going down. Sin gets on to Articuno though, and the Deadly Flourish is there as well. Precision Protocol takes the head of Victor again, and Mauer also in trouble now as Leon trying to get in. Sin no way out, taking a lot of health down. Victorio goes down to Leon. Kum is now dangerous, looking to run people down with the Glacial Augment. Kurosh stepping forwards and double kill to Karma? That's not what you expected. I think it's a 2 for 2 right now. It's a bit of a bloody mess is what it really is. Now Leon and Fuyu trying to get out, and the bloodbath might sort of ended, but Mauer around this corner trying to make this difficult for Leon and Fuyu. They've got to try and outplay best as they can. There's the heal. They're running onto Mauer. The undertow is dashed away from. Fuyu also so damn low. Olaf trying to get in. Shut down. Gets Leon. But now under tower with the W from Karma. He's sure to fall, but the tower shot's not quite enough. Little Pants needs something. He's not got flash, and he's going to try and maybe Hex Flash over the wall, but no. I don't even know who came out on top of that. I think it's London United.
You may have recalled, Sam. You were saying, it's you said they were even, but there's a 4,000 gold advantage. Well, yes, but until Demise started playing into the favored playstyle of London United, long, drawn-out 5v5 fights, multiple procs, the Moonstone Renewer, the Senna Q, keeping it range and having the Death Rays doing the extra work which they Demise can't answer at that long range. Of course, in the broken play, in the 1-3-1, in the individual lane assignments, Demise are finding the wins. But in situations like this, it is much more even, and Articuno does not want to be here again.
No, he can't do it like this. There is the hook shot. The gravity field's down, but the Hex Tech ultimatum is there, and this glorious evolution is barely getting past a stage of amoebas. He's at best a troglodyte right now at 3, 5, and 2.
He's really suffering in the Camille lane matchup. It's lane assignments once again. You don't want this Camille able to just freely all in the Victor. It's also going from bad to worse in that sense of things, because it's not like Victor is just holding a lane. He doesn't have the tower to play around. He's pushing up, and he's getting punished for trying to get that priority across the map and not having anyone else ready to respond.
And long lane plus Camille's in 1-3-1 is exactly as you called it. I am so glad you pulled it up, because these lane assignments have been disastrous for Articuno and Kurosh as well. Gonna try and prove you right around this Ornn Rise matchup as well. At the very least, Kurosh has got a Herald in inventory with a little bit of time left on it. Might be looking to get this tier 2. In fact, there it is popped. I don't know how much Victorio can do into the Rise as well.
Well, considering he's 100 CS down, probably not too much in terms of the whole wave push thing. Does deny the Herald charge, it looks like, but on the other side of things, it's the good old counterweight. You put the Herald somewhere, Sin gets the kill and has been teleported on.
Oh my day, Sin gets the 1v1, the Call of the Forge God misses. That call was turned around and returned to sender. You don't take those 0800. Is 0800 calls the one you pay for? I forget the ones you pay for these days.
You know what?
Just don't answer them.
I just do everything on various messaging apps. That's the way of this is the way, and apparently this is the way to win versus London United in this comp. I mean, once again, it's Sin going right the way into their lane opponent, and we talked about Articuno. They've been pushing up their lane. They don't have a tower to play around. At this point now, there's too much gold on the Camille. Now even the tower is making things very, very dangerous. They commit a teleport to try and turn that player around, but everyone's already on the bottom side of the map from Demise Academy. Victoria turns up, it's too late, doesn't manage to get anything for that summon a spell. They're left without that global, and then they have to go back into this 1-3-1, having that lack of global on both their solo lanes now.
And the other thing is the fact they are pinned into their tier 2 is like, it's all well and good having a great team fight comp around objectives, but if like your entire jungle is dark because you're pinned to your towers, you don't get to walk in and set up or be around for those objectives.
Of course you don't. This is exactly, again, the problems of playing what looks like a fantastic death ball. 5v5. Wow, yeah, if you ever enter a team fight on the correct footing, you're going to win that. We saw that in the bot side jungle. But you don't get to set up. You don't really get to deal well with these times in between the objective spawns either. We've seen that the only real person who's been benefiting from this has been probably Mauer, the Graves. Of course, he's just able to try and shield their lanes, pick up some farm here and there across the jungle and the lanes too. But it's nowhere near what's being gained in an individual power from the likes of this Rise who has, well, let's be honest, well, look at this.
Victorio, there comes the Dawning Shadow that actually buys time, but the hook shot plus true damage from Precision Protocol gets Sin on a killing spree from 2 and 4 to 5 and 4 as soon as you like. That is, I think, 2 solo kills and 1 near solo kill in a row.
Absolutely. Camille's out of control now, and part of that has been Kurosh keeping down Victoria, saying, you cannot farm on this Ornn. You're going to get shut. You can hold your tower sure, but you don't get to have waves, and you probably don't get to have a Baron either as Demise started up.
They do, and it's the 4v4 run out. Flash in, finds the Zenith Blade. The Solar Flare is good as well. That's a 3-man stun. The teleport now as well. Articuno is dead, and Olaf gets running around with Jhin doing the honors. He's been feeling left out, looking for a triple kill. It'll be a Sonata in 3 parts. Maybe make it more like a fugue, because that was a funeral. And London United find themselves with everybody dead and Victorio just respawning in time to weep and mourn the passing of the rest of his team.
I'm going to add some stuff to Demise's notes after this. We knew that Little Plants players engage. 1 and 6, taking a lot of hits for the team. I'm going to say ban this Rise. Demise play around it far too comfortably. It's making their macro game look very, very slick. It doesn't have to be the Rise getting the solo kill. Sin's got that in the bag this game, and London United are left really reeling from how Demise are going between lane to lane and not letting up this pressure.
And I love I'm going to call it arrogance, because in some ways it is, but the other way would just be like confidence of Sin to basically go, I am going to take Ignite on my top every time. I'm going to play Kai'Sa, I am going to play Camille, I'm going to play Yone, and I am going to tell you that you will not beat me in the 1v1. Come at me. And it's worked out for Demise Academy a number of games now.
This reminds me quite a lot of Season 8 era teams, where we did have a lot more 1-3-1 in the meta. Rise was much more prevalent, and say, for instance, G2 of that era, right? You had people like Wunder playing the Camille and Perks playing that Rise in the mid lane. It feels very similar in the kind of the way that they were just... when you get very practiced at this style, and you force the game to be played this way, it's really hard to stop people getting into that kind of rhythm of things. You need to be able to pop off in one area of the map and break open this kind of structure, but even then, you're probably losing something somewhere else on the map. And that's why I said earlier into the game, hey, it's really interesting watching the minimap. As soon as a play is being made, everyone is immediately reacting one side of the map or the other. London United did that well for a part of it, and they're trying to shut down Kurosh now.
Kurosh could be in a spot of bother. Needs to get out. Victoria looking for a stun, potentially, but can't get around the corner. That means Kurosh gets out, and that's 3 members around that side, which means the push in mid can continue. They're shoving onto this tier 3, and London United just aren't there to come and defend us. Sin on the other side gets another solo kill. He gets out until the collateral damage at least puts him down for a short amount of time. The solar flare comes through, and that's actually a lot of damage coming out. Mauer gets a shutdown on Rise. That means the solo laners are now dead, and the Baron push is thwarted by a nice turnaround.
It is. It's 1 for 2. Articuno falls down before, of course, we end up panning over. This is still Mountain Soul point for Demise. We've talked so much about the silence. We hardly talked about the objectives, which is so important to London. Demise are going to start this up, but they're against an ultless London right now.
It's a 3v4, flashing for Victoria, looking for something, gets a searing charge, and that's too late on the Ragnarok. Now Leon trying to heal up, has got a shield and a gore drink, going to try and turn it around. Jhin at the back end is a terror.
Oh, no way.
Leon gets one. Not like this. Mauer at least gets Leon. The teleport's now coming through. Fuyu trying to stay alive, cause chaos with the deadly flourishes and those extended executes with Collector and 4th shot. But that means another few people dead. That means Mountain Soul surely denied unless Fuyu can pull a rabbit out of the hat, or at least a 4th bullet and a dancing grenade. Red team, rather London United, get that one. Gale forced away, but Articuno is going to try and run this one down. Shut down onto Jhin, and I think Fuyu needed to give that one up.
Probably had to. Is looking for the miracle play, doesn't find it, and London keep themselves in it. by the barest, thinnest of margins. They are down 6,000 gold. They're down just that one dragon now, but they're also down 6 turrets. They haven't taken a single one the entire game because they have lacked pressure in every single lane. Ornn been pushed in since the beginning of the game. Ryze, of course, been relentlessly shoving in wherever they've been on the map. It's only really been parts of the game where this Senna and Karma have been able to find some kind of movements into the other side of the map. The forward percentage for London United in this game is going to be pitifully low, but it's not necessary. It's not even really their fault. It's just how Demise have been playing this full court press.
That said, Ornn and Victor might be relatively weak right now. Might be not looking so hot on the scoreboards. Mauer is now 10, 3, and 4 with 3 items complete on Graves, and there isn't that much of a frontline for Demise Academy, and you saw what he could do if he gets chance to free fire.
Absolutely does. I mean, if he does walk into range of the Olaf, Ryze, and the Camille gets on top of them, probably still going to go down. And the other problem is, again, between these objectives, sure, you're taking that dragon fight. There's not a dragon for another 3.5 minutes. Baron's not up for another 2 minutes. What are you going to do in the meantime? Looks like you're going to lose yourself some towers, and Mauer cannot be everywhere at once.
That's probably the second true skirmish come team fight that London United have actually managed to fight. So otherwise, Demise Academy have actually played pretty well to getting these isolated matchups, these lane matchups that they have managed to shove in. That's the last tier 2 down. The mid lane inhibitor is already exposed. This tier 3 in the bot side is at 10 to 15% HP. London United are still backs against the wall here, and one messed up skirmish, and they still lose this game.
And so the problem for Demise now is, okay, you've taken all the easy turrets. You need to dive, like Sin was doing, of course, onto Articuno on that bot lane inhibitor turret, before you can really start breaking this base open in terms of the inhibitors. They've taken some of those towers, but the distance that London United have to travel between the split skirmishes is much lower now they're in their base.
Gonna playing around that base gate, potentially, at this point, he's got 3 items as well. He's not the worst Victor ever at this point. He's got his upgrades. It's an Ornn upgrades coming through as well. Afraid to say I have not had chance to learn all of the new Ornn upgrades yet. Crossfire Gauntlet is into something, as is Leandri's Anguish and the like. Solar Flare to disengage as Articuno gets Courage as I speak about it. That was not what I was expecting. The curtain call is pulled, trying to get something turned around, but they won't get it. And London United find a solo kill in a side lane from a solo lane that was seemingly out of this game.
That's really, really important because Demise find themselves in a bit of a difficult situation. And one thing about the full court press is that you need to be able to continually put it up. Otherwise, you just take the foot off the accelerator, and London United get to recoup what they lost in the last couple of minutes. Right here, they get to go onto food because there's nothing else that Demise can respond with.
Oh, and Mauer goes unstoppable, and suddenly this game is looking a little bit more tricky for Demise Academy. We said if it got too late, if it got to the point where they could start getting these critical late game fights around objectives, around even their own base, things got difficult. That means it's another dead carry, and it could be a double TP in indeed. Check as Little Pants goes in onto Articuno. There is the Dawning counter by time, but he is dead. Articuno is down. Double TP is here. Sin is around, and here comes Victoria, but the HP bars are low. Sin goes in, looking to get onto Kum Kum. Will almost delete it with a single precision protocol. The Hextech ultimatum isn't quite enough, but that Ryze EQ certainly will be. Overload, Spell Flux is good, Hookshot is better, Mauer is running away. The tactical sweep, Precision Protocol will mean that Demise Academy finally find the skirmish they needed. They find the ace, and they will have the game here at 30 minutes in.
That's it. That's the knockout punch, and it's Demise that come out on top. London United found themselves that one gap in the 1-3-1. They tried to punish it, but they fumbled at the Baron. Articuno didn't have a safe approach. The teleports come in after that point, and they run over the 5v4. Sin gets right into the middle of things, and now they're right into the middle of the base.
They're going to get every inhibitor, and I don't actually know whether they feel like they can end here,
they haven't
done it. They've just gone for all inhibs. That's potentially quite risky, actually. They could find themselves in quite a lot of trouble.
That's the problem. It gives London United another chance to come back with a team fight. And this is a 10,000 gold lead. Huge amounts of items on the side of Demise. There's Camille, out of hand. There's Olaf, 10, 3, and 5, much like Mauer's very strong Graves too. Of course, we talked about the Ryze on the side of Demise as well. But London United are in their element if they get to find these team fights. Now the problem is they don't want to approach this dragon because Demise have just ran through, clearing out the vision, dropping their own. They don't want to get picked off again, so they're going to have to now face a Mountain Soul for the rest of the game.
All right, that will be Mountain Soul. It is down. They got the skirmish. I don't know who actually secured the Baron there. I think it might actually have.
It's
It's
still
still
alive.
alive, even. I was too busy checking around some of those scoreboards, and that means that this game is not over, though it's feeling increasingly like it. Mauer still a terror, though. This Victor has got to his items. Senna's getting towards his late game point as well. The amount of soul she'll be getting.
I think
if we could even potentially have a hover over and have a look at that soul count, that would be kind of amazing, actually, just to see where that's at production, if that's possible.
But I mean, more importantly, the Baron's being started because what Demise have done is they've realized, like, well, okay, London don't have enough time to get themselves onto the Baron and get around there with a vision. They're afraid to get picked off again. They nuke it. They go teleport Realm Warp top lane. They've got a wave stacked up there already with double super minions because all the inhibitors are down. Demise are looking for the throat.
They are. Can they hold on, though, is the question for London United. Call of the Forge God is it. This could be it. This could be the last call. It's a stun onto Little Pants, but he's gone in as well. Victorio buff as well. Sin misses the hook shot, but still deletes Koom Koom with the help of Fuyu. Sin gets Karma as well, and they will show that Karma is a... well, bad lady, perhaps is the way to phrase it. It's a triple kill for Jin, and now it's a Nexus turrets remaining, and this fed Graves against the world. Tactical sweep, and some true damage will leave Sin with another kill at 10, 5, and 9. It was close, but Demise Academy play out the 1-3-1 exquisitely at points to earn themselves the victory here in this top of the table clash.
We've been blessed by two close games down to the wire at both ends of the table. We finished our tenure here, though, today, and I am so glad we got to see both of these ones, because that feels pretty hard to top for me.
It really does. Some of the solo kills from Sim were amazing. Some of the turnaround finds from London United, where they were down, but still a threat, was pretty exquisite as well. Either way, does mean, unfortunately for us here, myself and Nymera will be heading off from the caster desk to hand over to some other brilliant casters. Here, a special guest might be joining us.
Perhaps it is Viperine and Rail joining us on taking over our reins where we've left it off. Our voices need a break.
They do at that. But that means for us, well, we're done for the evening. So we'll leave it to other more capable hands, and we'll see you soon.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the UKEL. It's myself, Viper, and alongside special guest caster Rael, as we'll be taking you through the final two games of the day. And with those two first games, pretty hype, pretty close stuff. Hopefully, our series will be just as good. Rael, it's your debut on the UKEL. How are you feeling?
Just happy to be here, to be honest. And like you said, I hope we get some spicy games like the last one. What just happened was just neck and neck. Really, really good game to watch. I hope our next game is going to be like that itself with Lucendi versus Hive.
Yeah, Lucendi versus Hive. This is a really, really exciting matchup because while we've already had our kind of top of the table clash versus our bottom of the table clash in the first two games, these two games are about how these teams are looking to set themselves up going into the next few weeks. Hive were really, really hyped as kind of this team that everyone was rating to be this top one, top two team. They've got loads of really good players and they came in with a lot of fanfare, but losing out in their first two matchups has kind of put themselves playing catch up already at this early point in the season. Lucendi, on the other hand, a team that not that many people knew that much about. A lot of people were saying, who were insiders, that this team is actually pretty good. Their players are all quite talented. And looking at it, they've gone one-on-one, so that's a decent start. If they can beat Hive here, then they're setting themselves up to be a real competitor at the top of the table.
Yeah, so it's definitely all to play for. They can prove themselves as being one of the top contenders if Lucendi come out on top here. But whereas Hive really want to bounce back here, they want to prove that 0-2 isn't going to keep happening. They want to prove they can bounce back. They want to show that they've learned from their mistakes and their losses. And you do learn a lot from losses in general. So if they look into their games, find out what the problem was, they can definitely come up to be that team everyone hyped up.
Absolutely. I'm really excited to have you on here specifically, Real, because of course you've come out of Square One. You were casting in that league for quite some time as well. And this Hive roster, by and large, a lot of the players on this roster were the same players that were on the NSG roster that not only won the UKEL a couple of seasons ago, but also had a very, very strong performance in Square One as well. So hopefully some familiar faces for you as we dive towards this one. We're going to go getting into Champ Select very, very soon. But Real, before we get into Champ Select, so no cheating here, are there any champions that we should be keeping our eyes out for on this patch?
The main one's just Ivan, to be honest. As you've already seen him bouncing about, especially top lane. You can even see him in support, which is a spicy one. Like that champion's just so strong with Moonstone right now, and it's not even gonna get really nerfed that bad. It's still just gonna be sitting at the top, really.
It's a very interesting pickup. I actually got to cast some of it over in the Baltic Masters on Tuesday. It was a lot of fun seeing Ivan up in the top side. It was out farming and winning lane, which is a bit bizarre, but did go on to win that game. But we are now into picks and bans. Olaf and Vayne and Kaiser taking off the table. No real surprise here, especially when you look at who's in the bot lane for Hive.
Yeah, not a surprise seeing Vanegod's Vayne banned. It's like common courtesy, but it's also such a good thing to have in your team to say, okay, we're guaranteed going to get a free ban because they're going to ban Vayne. And it's such a great thing to have in your team environment, just to have that one guaranteed ban to free up something stronger.
Yeah, it's definitely something that is worth utilizing if you can have that extra free ban. You're like, okay, the enemy team basically lose a ban every game because they have to take away Vayne, and if they don't, then we've got a massive tool in our hands. Yone, Seraphine, and Camille all off the table, which means that Jin is going to be the priority. What do you make of this?
Yeah, not surprised Jin's slipping through because Kaiser removed off the table. You're sort of just always going to look towards Jin. The only issue is if he's drafted into too many tanks, it's not going to be too fun for him to play.
It won't be amazing. Jin, of course, not known for tank busting, as it were. Ash is being hovered. That was used as a proxy pick in the last round, and Nymera almost lost his mind. So we'll have to wait and see if that is actually going to be a proxy or the Ash lock-in. But with Kaiser off the table, Jin is a bit stronger because Kaiser tends to be the pickup against that. We'll have to see what is going to be paired down in the bot side. But still a lot of really powerful picks available, especially some of those Moonstone users. You've got Karma, you've got Lux that we've been seeing floating around. Both of them have made it through.
So I lean more towards something else, actually, which I'd like to see here. I want to see Alistair picked up quite early in this draft because I think Alistair really does sit up there with top tier supports right now. And he enables so much for your team, just that dive potential to say, as soon as your support's moved away to D ward or even gone to ward, we can dive you.
Well, I'm looking at this jungle matchup that we've just got locked in, and this one is going to be spicy. Udyr for Lutendi up against Sejuani in the jungle for Hive Central. These are two really interesting picks.
We have we asked for something spicy and we get an Udyr, so definitely nothing to complain with there. Really, really obnoxious to deal with. He's probably going to go the full tank build, but he still does so much damage and he fares quite well into tanks. So maybe we're going to see Udyr permanently in Sejuani's jungle unless they can get some heavy priority laners.
And with Galio being locked in, that one's a bit of a flexible pickup. Could go mid, could go down into the support role. But Sejuani is a champion that we haven't seen too much of too recently. So that's quite an interesting pickup. I'm seeing typing in the chat, but Fresh is going to be the lock-in alongside the Ashe. Nothing has been said about the Ashe being a prox pick, so let's assume that it is going to be that pickup in the bot side, which means that they can be targeting those solo lanes while Lucendi can do the same kind of thing, but with a little bit more flexibility because of that Galio pick.
I like the Galio here as well. It gives you also that lane priority. Is very high early base damages as well. And the Galio is a flex, like you said. Could end up in that bot lane and is a very strong pick on the current patch. And it just means you have that follow-up for Udyr. If Udyr is being aggressive or even gets caught out of position, you have Galio back up almost instantly.
And one thing I really do like, which is something you've already touched on, is the idea of picking Jhin first up and saying, right, well, Jin's not great into tanks. This could be a bit problematic if they go for something a bit beefier. Sejuani, very, very tanky champion. But the Udyr being the immediate response means that you've already got a solution to those tanks. So you won't just see Hive going heavy on those bruisers, on those frontliners, because yes, they're going to be fine into Jhin, but Udyr's going to be able to rip them to pieces. So you don't really want to be picking up stuff. So it forces Hive into quite a balanced team comp, which could well favor Lucendi in the long run. We've got Zoe, Akali, Jace, and Sylas off the table, so a lot of mid laners being taken away, and that means that the role is squeezed a little bit, but a lot of power still on the table. You've got these kind of more versatile picks that could move into the mid lane. You've got stuff like the Orianna, which is being seeing a little bit of play, and of course, Anivia has still snuck its way through.
Yeah, a lot of power picks, both in mid and top, have snuck through. You have Aurelia, who's actually very strong on this current patch, and talking to Devil, there she is right there. She's a very, very strong laner on this patch, and with Sejuani, you can proc that stun almost instantly, so there's that guarantee there, and it is a flex pick.
Yeah, it could be top, could be mid. It gives Lucendi some questions to answer. Usually now you'd be able to get at least one counter. The Shen being locked in, a really, really strong top laner, giving that global presence. And this is kind of the theme we're having. You say that Galio is really, really nice when they're delivered into the fray by an Udyr. But when that Udyr's also got a Shen shield on him and a Shen inbound, that's a really, really scary form of engage.
I'm loving the amount of globals from this side. It's really, really scary to deal with, just knowing that any 1v1 can turn into a 3v1 within seconds.
Okay.
And there's not a lot you can do about it either. So by the looks of things, we're getting a Galio support, Aatrox mid lane, and a Shen top lane. At least that's what I think it's rounding out to be. Obviously, the Shen can go support. There's no issue with it going support here, but I think I prefer the Galio in the bot lane here.
Yeah, I think that's the way that I would see the composition rounding out as well, but there is a tiny bit of flexibility. The Aatrox going to the mid lane will be really, really interesting. And there's the Annie that we've seen a little bit of in the UKEL, but it looks like it was a proxy pick as we're immediately thrown back out into the lobby. So we'll have to find out what that Annie is going to be and whether it will confirm if Aurelia goes mid or top. But before we find out, with the Aurelia, would you prefer seeing it into the Aatrox or into the Shen?
Generally, I don't mind it into either. I think it's a lot better into the Aatrox for sure. And I feel like soon as Aatrox misses one or two of his Qs, you can hard engage on him and pretty much shut him down quite easily. Getting an early recall for Executioner's Calling will cut out so much of his healing in his trades.
Well, we have got word that the Annie was Cassiopeia, meaning that probably going to be cast mid into the Aatrox with that Aurelia moving up top side into the Shen, which is still not a bad way of assigning lanes, but how does Cassiopeia do into an Aatrox lane?
I have two parts to this. So
Okay.
Cassio does really well into Aatrox in general. You can bully the Cassio early, especially with a low movement speed. She is a very easy gank target, especially early, because at Aatrox, getting them long-range dashes with the knockups, obviously just easy gank opportunity. But the front-to-back Hive have is disgusting. It's very, very hard to get past a Cassio, a Sejuani, Aurelia who's diving your backline, and then you've got a Fresh to bring people back to safety if they need to be. There's so much good front to back on Hive. I just feel their comp is so well rounded.
It absolutely looks that way, and if we look over at Lucendi's composition, we've got a lot of very interesting forms of engage. They've got the global presence, they've got the Ude running through as well, but if you look at things front to back there, it is going to be exceptionally difficult to break through what Hive have built.
Yeah, and you think about Jin struggles with tanks as it is. You think about an Aurelia diving on a Jin. He's going to have not a lot of fun this game in general. If Aurelia can find that backline access, it's going to be a very scary game for them to deal with. And it's going to be that question of if. Like, so much vision control needs to be played this game by both teams.
Interestingly, just as we jump back into picks and bans, of course, we have got proxy, so everything is just going to be run through very quickly. It looks like Eno will actually be on the Aatrox with Limsey on the Galio, so a little bit of flexibility. You said this could potentially happen, and this certainly seems like it's a bit of a nicer lane for Limsey with the Galio into the Cassiopeia as opposed to the Aatrox. Shen support, how is that working right now?
It was just fine as it used to. I don't think it's as strong as it used to be. Still has very high base damages, of course, but I do like the bot lane of Hive way better, with Ashe and Fresh just easier to execute in this lane.
It's a much easier one, and it seems almost that it's a much easier team composition to pull off, right? As Hive, it's something that you've got loads of disengage, you've got loads of defensive capabilities, but that is something that we've been critical of teams in the past where they only go defensive and don't have those opportunities to engage. When you've got Ashe Arrow, you've got Sejuani ultimate as well, you've got a hook if you want to just be getting that pick. Hive seem to have built a composition that has a little bit of everything. Lucendi's composition, it's got the global presence and it's got this ability to get people across the map very, very quickly. So a 1v1 could easily turn into a 3v1 at the flip of a coin, at the flip of a switch. But I'm just a little bit more concerned that if this composition isn't being forced into these situations where they can get these kind of skirmishes that they want, it could be a little bit problematic for them.
So my main issue is, so Shen support, for example, isn't going to be as tanky as Shen top lane. So he's going to come through. Say if Aatrox is behind, even by 1 kill, that's a squishy Shen teleporting through. Sure, you're going to get a big shield, but if Aurelia is ahead, she's going to kill both of you, and that's just going to snowball even more out of control. So that's my issue with Shen support as general, whereas you throw Galio there, you have really high base damages with Galio and Jin together. You have so much burst for one target instantly, and it's really, really hard to deal with in that way. So I do feel like Lucendi's team comp is really, really hard to pull off correctly. But if they do, their global pressure is insane. No one can go to a side lane alone.
Okay, so let's talk about these win conditions. We've got a couple of minutes to get into game because, of course, we're on live, so there's no instant in the game. But Lucendi first. If Lucendi were to go on and win this game, how would you envisage they do that? What's the most likely course of action that they should take if they want to get to victory?
I think you either permagank top and jungle with the Udyr, because you're not going to get pressure in that mid lane. It's going to be very hard to pressure Cassio correctly. And you know Udyr wants to invade the Sejuani. You know he wants to put her behind. And if he gets the opportunity to get that 1v1 or even 2v2 with top lane included, it is going to be very good for him. But the 2v2 of Hive is also very terrifying with the instant proc of Sejuani stun from Aurelia. This is the issue, what I'm saying. Because if you put that Aurelia behind, that instant stun isn't going to be as much as an issue. So that's why I want to see the focus from Lucendi to just keep ganking that top lane, put the Aurelia behind so you can enable the pressure even more.
And over on the side of Hive, would you say that it's likely that Wilhelm is going to look to maybe play around that top side? Because A, the instant stun is a really, really powerful tool, but also the fact that Sejuani wants to be making sure that Shady on the Udyr isn't able to set that Aurelia behind?
I think so. It's going to be a game of both more or less playing top mid, because you want to be protecting that Cassio, making sure she doesn't drop any deaths, especially early. If she gets past early, she's more than fine against Galio. And whereas top lane, what you just mentioned, the instant stun proc, Aurelia is going to have a guaranteed pressure for you then. At that point, you're going to get every skill to crab free, and that's just going to put you that much more ahead, and it just gives you that herald control even more. Gives you the option to drop it wherever you want.
And leaving these junglers to be playing around the top side most likely, this leaves bot on a little bit of an island this game. So you've got Ashe Fresh into Jin Shen, and we've already said that the Ashe Fresh is a much simpler lane to kind of play around and execute. What do you expect Vayne, God, and Zerg to be doing? If they are going to be without too much lane presence from their jungler, How do you want to see them play this lane when they are favored?
You see, the reason I liked Hive's comp was because of this bot lane. They can play aggressive or they can play defensive. Like, it's so flexible having that fresh in there just to say, all right, Ashe, push that wave. I'm going to sit back with Lantern and get you out. But at the same point, there's an Udyr. Udyr running straight at Ashe. You're just going to keep getting slowed and slowed. The engage from Lucendi in the bot lane is a lot harder to pull off. Whereas Hive's engage, you have an arrow, you have fresh hook, you even have just the opportunity to walk up and flay, and you can actually deny the Shen taunt with flay. So that's the main issue. What I'm looking at with Lucendi's bot lane, it's very hard to actually get any confident engage correctly.
We're loading into this one, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be in the game very, very shortly. But Rael, before we get into it, you've talked, I think I know the answer to this question already, but if you look at these two compositions of these two teams, who do you think is favored in this matchup?
Oh, you already pretty much guessed it.
I'm good.
I'm definitely going with Hive. I just like their comp much better. I think it's simpler to pull off, and you need a lot less execution to do it correctly. You can go wrong and still do the composition right. That's why I love their team comp. Whereas the globals, like I said, Shen is going to be so squishy. He's not going to be as tanky as top lane Shen.
Absolutely. I agree. I do really like how Hive are built, and this could be an excellent opportunity for them to get into this league, get onto the board with their first win, and get something to build on. On the other side, Lucendi, as you said, their composition has got tools, and yes, it's much more difficult, but if things go well for them and they can get this global presence on the map, they can definitely be doing a lot of work. So we're on to the riff for our third game of the evening. Lucendi on the blue side, taking on Hive Central on the red side, and looks like lines of scrimmage all around. There's been a severe lack of invading this season from teams, and it's really disappointing.
That does actually make me sad. I love when people would invade, even just to drop down that single ward to get information. I love that stuff. So it's sad to hear that no one's really been invading, but you never know. Game 2 might be an invade. Hopefully, maybe.
we can dream. We can hope and pray for the invade in our final game of the night. But you know, it looks like no deep wards were even gained by either side. They were just the defensive wards on ramps to make sure there wasn't any cheekiness occurring. But if you had to look at somewhere that we should keep our eyes on early game, where do you think that would be?
That's a hard one. It's mainly going to be based off where the junglers start. And it looks like both junglers are going to start opposite each other. I would have liked to see Sejuani start the opposite side, just to path away from Udyr, because you don't want to really meet him early. Despite the 2v2 we talked about, you still don't want to meet him early. So I would have preferred that, but they might end up clashing. They're both going to end up going for a full clear for the first clear anyway. So it's going to be fairly relaxed till we get the scuttle fight.
And I'm excited to see how these two go up against each other in that scuttle fight and what kind of lane state they're in, because obviously Udyr is absolutely terrifying in those 1v1 situations around the scuttle, but if some priority can be built by champions like the Cassiopeia, like Aurelia, if it's top Sky Scuttle, or even the bot side, if they do decide to run down and fight for that one, then it could be a very, very interesting play. But nice double play from Zerg, forces the flash away from Highlander. Dandy will also be chased away, and this is exactly what you were saying could happen in this bot lane. They're just getting bullied off.
Yeah, and this is going to happen pretty much throughout the game. They're going to try to bring Udyr's pressure down here so Sejuani can assert hers elsewhere. And that's going to be the aim of the game for them. You've seen the pressure they already exerted. That's already a flash blown in bot lane. And Vanguard and Zerg are no cowards to fight in. They will happily fight you anytime you walk up.
And have the tools to start those fights. As you said, Flay, Death Sentence, you've got Ashe slows to keep people locked up. It's definitely going to be a very, very scary time for Lucendi's bot side, especially when Udyr is going to want to be going top, wanting to set the Aurelia behind, at least in the early game. And with him already on top side, clearing out that blue buff, that could be an option that he could go for pretty early on. Limsey is going to be clearing out the mid side, but if we look at Shady here, he's almost finished with that first full clear. Scuttle hasn't spawned just yet, but Wilhelm is there, so this could well be the scrap over Scuttle Crab that you were talking about, and it looks like priority has been gained pretty well by members of Hive, but needs to be careful as there's going to be a bit of a stun mid, but Limsey will be able to walk out of that one without blowing anything.
The cheeky damage there, they're looking to interact with each other here, but it's going to be way too late for Sejuani, and they just know it.
Yeah, Wilhelm not looking to step up even remotely, just seeing Udyr down on that scuttle and deciding against going for any kind of contest, looking towards Limsey in the mid lane, but won't even be looking to gank. They're just looking to go down towards this Scuttle Crab, but Wilhelm needs to be a little bit careful of Shady. Limsey has built up a bit of priority mid lane and is moving down, but look at the bot side. You've got Zerg and Vanguard who already have control over the bot lane. Dandy running up as well. This is going to be the first full fight of the game. Zerg's already used Flay down, but look at the Galio coming in. Nice taunt there on to the Sejuani being forced away with the Lantern. So it does manage to survive. Flash has been burnt by Wilhelm, though. Has got Hextech Flash, but it won't matter. But with that play all said and done, looks like Shady is going to pick up the double scuttle.
That's absolutely huge to pick up there as well. Vanguard actually kind of got denied from walking forward by the Shen's movement there, cutting them out from moving up the river, and actually got there first. And also, Dano wasn't able to get past because the Galio and the Udyr moved up together, denying the pathing potential there and getting that scuttle.
Yeah, really, really well played from what looks like a bit of a suspect laning position from Lucendi. Getting that double scuttle allows this Udyr to be so much more effective and hopefully go back with a little bit more gold. Hasn't even backed yet, as he's just going to clear out those Krugs on the bot side. He's going to be pretty happily taking those ones away before moving up and still just looking to keep clearing, get as much gold in his pocket as he can before going back for those first items. But now that he's got this advantage, he's going to want to make use of it as soon as possible, and that's going to have to involve going back and getting some items.
Definitely. He's definitely getting that CS lead ahead as well. 42 CS to 24, but look at that top lane. Aurelia's starting to accumulate quite a big lead, but she doesn't have too much mana in the bank. Looking to get that level 6 first for potentially an all-in.
It could be en route to that one, and Udyr has yet to show his face topside for anything, so it allowed Aurelia to get that lead and set Aatrox behind, and that's quite a sad position to be in if you're, on that Aatrox. It's not a fun lane matchup if the Aurelia does get 6 and all-ins you. Even if she doesn't get the kill, you're still going to be set back. You're probably going to lose resources, and then you're going to make yourself even easier to gank by the Sejuani, who, as you can see behind tower, was potentially looking for something, but decided to get Shady's now moving up, though. It could be a 2v2 fight in this top lane. Looks like it could be, and Aurelia is going to be jumping in. First Blast is going to go down in the bot lane to the Ashe, though, as the top lane fight will be kicking off. Nice knock up there, and nice done onto Eno, who does need to be a little bit careful. Is managing to walk away, though. Shady also going to be able to step back as Wilhelm is forced off, but excellent play from Hive across the map as they pick themselves up first blood in the bot side.
Yeah, I love that Wilhelm spent so much time around the top lane there. He knew that this was the main option for Udyr. He had to break that freeze. He knew Aatrox is doomed if this wave stays like this. So he goes up there, pretty much telegraphed. Sejuani just sits and waits. Aurelia gets the engage for him, but unfortunately they don't get a kill up there. But on the bot side, they come out clean with the first blood.
Yeah, it was simple as hook into Flay and to kill from Vanguard, which is what we've been seeing the entire time from the bot lane, but this time it paid off with the kill. Only onto the Shen, so Highlander hasn't fallen just yet, but maybe they would have preferred for it to be Highlander because he could have cleansed away from some of the CC, but ifs and buts. First blood going over to Vanguard is definitely something that Hive Central fans will be both used to and happy about, because if you can get this bot lane rolling, that power down there is going to allow for easy takes of dragons and a lot of late game damage.
I mean, if there's something Udyr likes to do, he likes to solo dragons. If you can deny him these, it's going to be denying a lot of power to his team. And especially with an Ashe in the team comp, I hate playing against Ashe whenever I play jungle. I hate it because them hawk shots spotting you out whenever you're trying to make something happen is so annoying. It ruins your entire pathing.
It makes it so easy for teams to adapt and know exactly where you are. It makes ganking so much harder because you're not going to be going anywhere without the other team knowing. And Aurelia, I won't lose doing so much damage in this matchup against Aatrox. He does have level 6, so the World Ender can now be utilized. This go down are going to be gifted over a blue buff and now moving down towards this dragon. We haven't seen any play around either of these global objectives just yet, which is quite unusual. For the UKEL, we like to see early dragons taken here. People like playing for that soul point, but so far, neither jungler seems to be all that interested in it.
No, both junglers kind of just playing it safe in a way. Udyr knows he can't go solo a dragon right now. He knows he doesn't have the lane pressure bot lane with his laners dying. And he knows he can't go top because Aurelia is so far ahead
Eno looks like he might be in a bit of trouble, but there's the hero entrance. Disco Dana comes in to make it a 2v2, and it's actually going to be the Cassiopeia picking up the first kill of the fight, going towards Galio. Now Shady is there, gets a nice double stun with 2 slaps and flashes over the wall to freedom. But a lot of resources being burnt up in the top side means that Hive Central get priority on this dragon and are the only team to pick up a kill in that fight.
They come out absolutely huge again, getting such good momentum from that, getting the dragon and getting the kill on the top side. The Cassiopeia actually moved really fast there to get there, and it was really impressive rotation, but Uda's looking for a response on the Rift Herald.
Yeah, started that one up. Hasn't got a priority in either lane particularly, but Aurelia going to have to be clearing out those minions under tower. So maybe it's a good time to start it with the top lane in the position that it is. First dragon going down as the Ocean. We'll give a little bit of sustain over to Hive Central. And they'll like that when they're fighting over these objectives, being able to essentially siege out stuff like Rift Herald and stuff like Dragon is going to be very, very nice. But keep your eyes peeled on Shady in the Lucendi jungle to see what he can do with this Rift Herald, because they made the trade, they made the exchange for that objective, and now they need to get some value out of it.
They definitely need to get some value out of it. I am a sad man for this Aatrox because... So I main Aurelia myself, and I've played this matchup so many times. I know how it is. Once he gets a little bit behind, you take it by a margin, and he struggles to keep back up. And look at Aurelia's items right now. She has Executioner's Calling, so even any of your healing in these trades is going to mean absolutely nothing, and it's just going to get even scarier. And it's about to be doomsday for him.
Wilhelm hanging around in that top bush, looking for the engage. Will be able to find the W and the knockup. One more auto will allow for the stun, which will land, but it's going to have to be a tower dive if they want any other play. But the stun upon stun upon stun means that another kill is going to go over to Hive Central. But now Limsey is looking for the chase, looking to get the first kill on the board for the blue side, and will be able to do so with the teleport, with the kill on to Wilhelm Sejuani. But now, you know, it's only a 1-for-1 trade. It's not perfect for Lucendi, but at least they got something.
They definitely got something. It was kind of a scuffed dive, if I have to say so. It didn't get the right connection on the Sejuani W. Only the first part of it hit, so didn't even get the stun that fast. Aatrox actually got to safety almost. They had to commit so much for that and actually end up trading a kill back. But nonetheless, Aurelia still going to get further ahead in this. So it's still them coming out on top despite the trade kill.
It's one of those things where you see the play come down, and from a team perspective, you're like, okay, it's even, 1-for-1. That's quite nice. But from Aatrox's perspective, you're like, well, I didn't get the kill. I'm still going to be beaten up as soon as I walk back to lane. So it's very, very rough watching this top side. Hopefully, Eno will be able to get back into this one and start putting out further damage. We can see Lucendi feeling quite confident around this mid lane, have moved into Wilhelm's jungle, stealing away those chickens. All the small ones have been taken up. Wilhelm able to clear a little bit of vision. In fact, the whole camp will be taken away by Lucendi's jungler. And this is what we wanted to see from Udo when we saw this lock-in. He wants to be going in and trying to limit Sejuani's farm as much as possible. He's already 40 farm ahead, and he's looking to go further.
Definitely got a lot of credit for Shady. He's trying to make a lot of stuff happen. He's even got the Herald, and he's coming for a play.
He's coming for a play in the top side, gets a nice stun down, 1v2 into Ironwood, who's dashing, dipping, diving around, waiting for Wilhelm to turn up with the teleport coming in on Tribush as well. Lucendi in full retreat. They've been told, no, you're not making this play right now, and they're going to be happy to back away, but moving into the bot side, that's a nice hook into play, into Highlander, into box, into kill, as Eno comes down, trying to turn this one around, manages to get on top of Vayngod with the nice triple knockup, and Limsey will be able to pick up the kill. Again, it's going to be a 1-for-1 trade, but this time, it's on the bot side.
A really good teleport coming out from the Aatrox there, denying any escape route possible. Vayngod probably didn't see him coming, so he flashed up and then met Aatrox. He was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm dead, guys.
Oh, Shady's looking for a play in the mid side. Just go Dano, going to be taunted and killed before he can even get half of the route along the lantern. Excellent kill from Lucendi. They're definitely turning up the pace in this one, and they're starting to see results.
Yeah, they just went 0 to 100. They went from doing nothing to just making plays happening across the map. When it looked like they was about to lose so much off bot lane, they make a TP play, they recover that, and then they make a play straight after into the mid lane. Really, really good macro from them so far to recover.
Absolutely, and it is a recovery. They're still a little bit behind in gold, but it's not looking too bad. Remember, they've still got the Rift Herald in pocket. They're going to have to drop that one very, very soon if they want to be able to get anything out of it, because it is running low, and plates are only up for another 45 seconds. But looks like it's going to be used on the bot side just to make sure that it gets out of pocket. It's not necessarily going to get the biggest return there, but at least it's going to get something.
So the sad part for Lucendi here is, so Udyr is ahead, but he's a tank. And at the end of the day, you look at Hive's comp, you have Ashe and you have Cassiopeia, who will happily play into tanks every day of the week because they shred them. You got a Kraken Slayer fully completed already. You have Leandri's fully completed. You have 2 massive items which shred tanks. So they're more than happy playing into a Fedude right now.
Ash going to be able to take down the Rift Herald before it can even get anything and then move up to Dragon. So the exchange that was made earlier was a bit of a disaster for Lucendi. They didn't even get anything off it, really. And now the second Dragon going over to Hive once again. Means they're going to be in such a strong position, moving out of laning phase, moving into the stage where you want to start taking these first towers. And with the mountains rising across the map, it's going to be even harder for champions like Lucian to get in and do that damage to tanks that they need to do.
Oh no. This man is about to step into the danger zone. He's about to walk up for this wave.
He is missing
Not
crucial
knowing.
information. As he walks in, the ult will land. 1-2 damage coming down. There's nothing that Eno can do. Just wrong place, wrong time, and it's another kill for Hive.
It's a very sad game for him. Whenever he's tried to get any resource back into the game, he's been absolutely denied. And it's credit to how Hive is denying this Aatrox and just keeping him as far behind as possible.
And Eno was actually one of the players that I was looking at when I was doing my research for this series and looking at how Lucendi were playing and what kind of players they had. I was like, could well be a player that is really, really talented and could be the driving force for Lucendi lineup. And then I see in the top side, he's playing Aatrox into Aurelia. Looks a little bit rough, but you said the junglers might want to play around this top side, try and get him going a little bit. It hasn't happened, and he's really struggled because of it. 3 deaths already, down by about 25 farm, and things don't seem to be getting any easier for him.
I wish we'd seen more proactivity with the Herald, and that was my main criticism for Lucendi. I feel like even if you didn't go for the gank top side and you just went and placed it at the top tower, going around the tri-bush way, just to get off the dash for the plates, I feel like that would have been more value, even if you don't get Aurelia killed there.
Absolutely, and you can see that Hive are 2k gold down. A good Shelly charge into plates wouldn't completely alleviate that, but would definitely put a dent in it. And if you're getting it onto your Aatrox, onto Eno, as you say, then you are getting your Aatrox a little bit back into the game. He hasn't even hit 1 full item yet. Yes, he's going to be going for the Mythic first, which is going to be really nice into this Aurelia, who's only got the Blade of the Ruin King currently, and of course those grievous wounds that we don't want to talk about because otherwise it will make Aatrox even more sad. But Aurelia's power spike right now is so much better than what Aatrox has been doing, and there's just absolutely nothing that Lucendi can do around this Rift Herald, it would seem.
So there's another sad bit of information I'm about to give you for Aatrox as well.
Okay.
Is that Aurelia can actually build Serpent's Fang and it won't be punishing for her. It's a lethality item, and you think, okay, like, why would Aurelia build it? It completely denies shields. Udyr comes in trying to shield, Shen comes in trying to ult. You completely almost destroy it off 1 or 2 hits. And it is a really good item on her as like a 3rd item. So you might even see it this game potentially, depending on how well Lucendi use their ultimates to deny Aurelia.
And this is the contrast. You can see Hive have dropped the Rift Herald almost immediately in that mid lane. Yes, there's no plates to be taken, but it gets the charge, it gets the tower. That's their 3rd of the game. There's nothing on the outer round for them anymore, but look at the fight in the mid lane. Looking for an engage. Limsey can't find the re-engage, though, and it looks like Lucendi are going to be forced to back away, but Hive have taken this game by the scruff of the neck, and they're dragging it into the mid game.
They're dragging it into the mid game indeed. I don't feel like Lucendi can't come back, but it's just going to be very narrow for them to do so at this moment in time. They need to be finding them picks. They need to be a bit more active with their ultimates, especially the Galio and the Shen. They need to make something happen in the side lane somewhere. Maybe force the Aatrox fight, force the free man, try get something, get that shut down. Well, it's not even a shutdown, just get some gold from killing someone here.
Well, this is my worry, Rail, because we talked about team compositions and how good the one from Hive was, and if Hive decided to start grouping around these objectives and fighting for it, it would have been hard enough for Lucendi to contest and to engage through this Cassiopeia, through the Sejuani, through the Fresh, if they were at parity. And right now, they're certainly not there. So it's very, very worrying to see that they basically don't have the ability to make proactive plays, really, in a straight 5v5 situation, because it's very, very unlikely that they'll win it.
And this is why I wish I'd seen something like the Alistar here. The Alistar support here gives you that other avenue of engage. Right now, you're looking at Luchendi's engage, it's all straightforward. I'm gonna run at you, but we have slows, we have Sejuani, we have Miasma. You gonna run at us still?
I wouldn't. I wouldn't be getting involved with that, especially when you've got also stuff like Petrifying Gaze that you're not going to want to run directly into because you'll be turned to stone and you're probably not coming out of that Petrifying Gaze alive with the damage that's coming through from people like Vaingod has got that Kraken Slayer and that Ruined Hurricane, 2 items already down in the bot side. And you can see Lucendi maybe trying to get something going. Teleport is coming into the Pixel Brush, but Zerg has already put it on the lantern trying to get the fight going as we see it kick off. I Won't Lose dashing, dipping around the fight. Just go down on the side, putting out so much damage. I Won't Lose has already got the first kill of the fight. Look at the side, Shady isn't able to do anything to the Cassiopeia. It's already been forced back, and the members who are still in the fight from Lucendi have been ripped to pieces. There's no one left for them to fight with, really. They've got Shady, they've got Highlander, but that's nowhere near enough to contest this dragon. And if the third dragon goes to Hive, they're setting themselves up for a pretty nice win condition going in about 10 minutes time.
They're trying to contest something which they're still just too far behind for. They thought they can get the catch on Aurelia, but what a beautiful flash to deny pretty much everything. And then she re-engages and just says, okay, fight me, try catch me, I'm gonna dash 1, 2, 3. And then no one can actually stop this Aurelia. She's completely unstoppable. Vaingod's free hitting is everything you want for Hive.
It's the thing that was most interesting to me about that fight is Disco Dano positioned so well, and even when they managed to get up to him, I'm gonna have to hold this point because he might not be positioned so well in the side lane right now. Shady's there, Dandy's there, Eno's rocking up, and yeah, it's not the Aurelia that's been giving me so much problem, but at least he's going to try and get some catharsis from this. Shady actually being forced to run away, and Disco Dano, I thought he was overextended, but he was exactly where he wants to be. He scares off 3 members of Lucendi, and meanwhile, while Lucendi is spending all his time down here, is giving Hive the opportunity to move in and get some vision around Baron.
Showing that confidence on that Cassiopeia pick, and it is paying off. Looking like when he is caught up position, getting that Conqueror proc, kiting back correctly. Shen can't even walk forward. He's stuck in the Cassiopeia W. He's stuck in the Miasma. He's like, sorry, Udyr, I can't help you, Chief. I'm kind of stuck here. And then Udyr's forced to run away because of it.
Ooh, Shade needs to be a little bit careful. He has got support from Dandy and Highlander in the jungle, but Hive support is worth a little bit more at this point in the game. Wilhelm moving in as well. We could actually be seeing some skirmishing or maybe even a team fight in this top side jungle, but no, Hive not interested in that one. Just going to move away, grab themselves a Skull Crab, and try to set themselves up an even more dominant position around this Baron buff, because of course that could well be the next avenue for Hive to look at. They already know that they're dominant in these team fights, especially when they're setting up around an objective and just denying Lucendi any entrance. And Baron, there's not really a bigger objective than that.
I've got something funny to tell you right now as well. If you look at Cassiopeia's farm and look at the minutes in the game right now, Disco Dano is so far ahead. He's CSing almost perfectly, staying ahead of the curve, and look at his items.
Engage attempted. Vaingod needs to be a little bit careful. Has been rooted up. The CC is coming down. Vaingod's already gone down in this fight. Hive Central might be forced to run away here. Disco Dano has teleported in on the side. I Won't Lose running in, but he's not in the fight just yet. Shady looking for the chase. Won't be able to find anything. Doesn't want to chase around all the houses. I Won't Lose throws out the ultimate. Won't really land anything. No one is forced to move away. That's a nice pick coming from Lucendi. They look like they might want to step up going for a little bit more, but haven't been able to find any kind of engage. Disco Dano hanging around, but isn't too worried about the state of play. Does get knocked up and stunned up, but the death sentence comes through. Will it actually be a death sentence? We'll have to find out as the fight is re-engaged. I Won't Lose on the side. Look at the damage that's going through for him. Hive Central need to be very, very careful, though, as their backline hasn't been touched just yet. That's a nice double kill coming through from Hive, which is forcing Lucendi to run even further back. They'd already won the initial team fight, but in looking for the re-engage might have cost themselves dearly. A nice lockup will deny I Won't Lose anything else, but they're going to look directly towards the Baron.
Just when Lucendi do something right, they decide to do the complete opposite. They decide to throw it back to him. Said, you know what, Hive, you can have a kill back in a trade. They caught out Vaingod, got a shutdown from him, and it was pretty much perfect. You just leave it there. You have everything you came for. You used all your resources. They're looking to contest some reason.
Yeah, looking to contest. Won't be able to get anything in there, and do manage to back away, so there's no return fight. But now members of Hive Central have Baron. All 5 of them. They're going to be able to get the nice reset going down and then look to siege some of these inner towers. The top one's already looking very unhealthy, and they're going to be happy with a much more strong push than that.
And we just had a small showcase of that front to back potential. They were low, but it didn't matter because no one's getting to the back line. Doesn't matter how low you get to get them if you can't keep chasing them up. And that is exactly what happened, and it's exactly Hive's comp. And it is so hard to deal with when at this stage of the game.
Now let's keep our eyes on where the next fight will be, and it will probably be either in a siege defense for Lucendi or around this fourth dragon. It's up in under a minute time. It will be giving the Mountain Soul over to Hive Central if they can secure it, and having that shield on top of already pretty chunky members in Sejuani, Aurelia, Fresh, it's going to be really, really rough for Lucenti to fight through it. And if they can grab it as well, they set themselves up for that Elder Dragon opportunity as well, which turns these team fights into impossible situations for Lucenti.
Oh, and I'm a happy man. I'm seeing Gold Drink Aurelia, but Cassiopeia.
Let's go, Dano. Can you win the 1v3 this time around? Shady has been ulted by Danny. You've got Eno there as well. And now they've got on top of the Cassiopeia. There's really not much that she can do. The shutdown goes on to Shen, which isn't the best. And now members of Hive are coming in for revenge. They're looking towards the Aatrox. They're looking towards the Shen. Shady looking to run, maybe get some stuns on, try to get re-engaged save, but won't be able to do so. Flashes forward to try and get onto Vengor, but he's dead before he arrives. And now the fight is kicking off in earnest. That's the second one coming through. A third one coming through for Hive Central as Highlander will look to flash over the wall to safety. He's done that, but now there's no opportunity. And look at Aurelia in the top side. She's just quietly taken an inhibitor the first of the game, sub 25 minutes, and is now allowing her team all the freedom of the bot side of the map to take towers, to take dragons, and probably take the game out of Lucendi's hands.
Yeah, it could very well be out of their hands right now because they gambled on so much for that Cassiopeia and it still cost them everything. It's like that meme of Season 3, Season 4, when you see Jax all the time split pushing. Meanwhile, in the top lane, there's an inhibitor gone because Aurelia's just had free time up there for nothing.
It's such a difficult position to be in if you're on Lucendi. You've lost you've lost one inhibitor and an inhibitor tower. The second inhibitor is still standing, so there is solace in that, but it can be taken so easily by the members of Hive Central. They've got themselves the Dragon Soul now as well, so team fights are an even harder proposition. They've set themselves up for not one, but two global objectives, which could spell the end of the game if they get either one of them. If you're on Lucendi, what can you do to try and get yourself back in this game?
Again, you kind of just have to get a pick. I think you have to sacrifice maybe an inhibitor or a tower just to get this pick on this Aurelia. You shut down Aurelia, that shuts down the 1-4. And not only that, look at her bounty. She also has 300 extra gold in her pocket when you shut her down. And that's just going to give you a little bit more time. You're going to get them super minions come in. You're going to get some gold. You're going to get some XP to catch up. I think that's your best avenue to get back in the game.
And Lucendi, to be fair to him, actually looking at Highlander, just going to go down instantly, burnt to pieces by that Cassiopeia. We don't need to see that kind of action, but in the mid lane, the fight is kicking off in earnest as the hero entrance has been used. News needs to be very careful as he's diving out, looking for support coming through from the teleport. Wilhelm is already there. And look at the healing coming through from Aurelia, picking up the first kill of the fight. Dandy going to go down as well. Eno is trying to move away, but they're running in the wrong direction to defend their own base. Yes, Shady will be able to get away and will be able to proxy it away for a little bit to slow down Hive Central, but they're already going at max speed, and I don't know if there's anything Lucendi can do.
There's nothing they can do at this point. The 3-man Gore Drinker from Aurelia completely denying that chance to shut her down. Looked like the right idea. It looked like what I just mentioned. There's like, okay, we shut down Aurelia, we buy time. But nope, her team arrived as soon as possible.
It's just the amount of healing was disgusting from the Aurelia, impossible to take down, and it's seemingly impossible to take down this game. We'll be going for it perfect 4-0-6, and Hive Central are back with a bang as they pick up their first win of the UKEL Spring 2021.
They're blessed with me. What can I say? I come on to cast and they
blessed.
get their first win. I know most of the players, funny enough as well, come back in. They draft a perfect front to back and they showcase how to play it. And I think going into that next game, they're definitely going to be looking at how Lucendi can actually choke out that front to back potential, how they can stop them from going a draft in that direction.
These are the things, these are the points that you learn. And you said before when we were talking, when we were preparing for this, and even on broadcast, you said you learn a lot from defeats. And Hive have had 2 defeats now. They learned quite a lot from them. And the defeats they had in the first week were not bad. They didn't look awful. It was just kind of, the first game was thrown away, basically, by a couple of bad individual performances at the end of the game. But Luciani now needs to go away from this one and kind of learn from their mistakes. And the fact that they lost in a fashion that you kind of picked up from in Champ Select, you said, these are my worries about the composition that they built, and those worries came to pass almost word for word as if it was scripted. There's definitely lessons to be learned, and hopefully they can learn them before Saturday.
I promise I didn't do anything. I didn't script anything.
It's rigged.
I
It's
just
rigged.
went on what I seen. But
Guess
exactly
right,
that.
Real.
I hope they draft a much stronger support in this draft for Lucendi. I really do not like the Shen support. I don't think it fit what they wanted. They just went for it because it had global potential, but you sacrifice lane presence for it. So again, I want them to have some more clear-cut engage than just walking forward at you. Okay, we're gonna galley all.
Yeah, it's not really the most consistent form of engage. But if you had to name an MVP in this game, it's quite a tough one, actually. There are a lot of good performances. Who would you give it to?
I'm stuck between Wilhelm and I Won't Lose because Wilhelm had really good pathing this game, and even just his patience in that top side, just knowing that Ude is going to come, was just pinpoint. If he wasn't there, that's potentially a shutdown on the Aurelia. That's her being denied them waves. She might even lose tower because she had Rift Herald at that point. So just on that alone, I'm going to give it to Wilhelm myself.
Definitely. I know I Won't Lose played exceptionally well, was a bit of a scene stealer, but Wilhelm, definitely the brains behind the operation. We're going to jump to a short break, but do not go anywhere, because when we come back, we've got the final game of the day. Will Nerd Rage be able to tie up the top of the table? We'll have to find out if they can take down Mythos in a few minutes. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the UKEL Spring 2021. I keep getting the year almost wrong, but they're not. So that's great. I'm Viperoon, still joined by special guest caster Rael, who did a pretty good job last game. We'll try and take it up one more level for the last game of the night. And it is a big one. I know Initialize and Narmera were building both of their games, but we've got a team in here who's still undefeated, Nerd Rage, and they're going up against Mythos.
Yeah, we'll have to see if my script is right on this time round. We'll have to see how these drafts plan out. And then from there, I'll tell you what's going to happen. I'll tell you who's going to win and exactly how it's going to happen. See if the script's right this time round. But yes, Nerd Rage currently undefeated. They were in the promotion tournament, but didn't do so well and more or less rebuilt. And they're definitely looking like a better team now and coming in a lot stronger. If they get this win, they will be at the top with Demise. So it's definitely a lot to play for them.
Absolutely. And even if they lose this game, they're still standing their authority near the top of the table at a 2-1 scoreline. But that is very, very surprising. What is maybe less surprising for people who have been around the UKEL for quite some time is that if Mythos win this game, they're also going to be 2-1 fighting around that top part of the table. As a very storied organization at this level who have consistently been good, but not your Resolve, your London Esports, these teams that absolutely crush the opposition. They're coming in this split, and my question for them is, how are you going to take that final step? How are you going to become that team? And that is going to start with beating teams like Nerd Rage, who are on an electric run of form.
And that's the hardest part. It's stepping up that game a little bit higher so you can compete with these better teams. And it's always the hardest part because they've always been consistent. They've always got to playoffs, but they never got further. And it's just, can they take that extra step? Can they push themselves and be better?
These are the questions we're going to have to answer as we jump into Champion Select. We've got Hecarim, Seraphine, and Fresh all being taken off the table. Flagian, don't give him his Fresh, and don't give anyone Seraphine on this match.
Yeah, don't give anyone Seraphine. That champion is
dumb.
Way too strong.
You know when everyone was like, wow, isn't it dumb that Sona's so strong this isn't fun at all? And then Riot were like, but what if we nerfed Sona? Everyone was like, yeah, perfect, that's what we want to do. Like, and then release another Sona, and everyone was like, no, that's not the answer, Riot. You can't just release the champ again.
The worst part is she can be played bot lane in the AD carry role as an APC, and she works just as fine. She can go the supportive build if she wants to. She can go the more aggressive build with the Ludens if she wants to. She has options, and she does so much damage. It's absurd, and I'm glad she's getting nerfed on PBE. I hope it's enough.
Nerf her into the ground, and everyone will see her again. Of course, Nerd Rage do lose their third ban due to a competitive ruling about transfers or something. I know it's a fair competitive ruling. I just can't remember what it is off the top of my head. Zed will be the final ban taken off the table, and I'm always scared when I see a Moo hover because that means proxies, and if there's one thing that I hate more than I love the UKEL, it's proxy picks.
Yeah, no, I kind of sit in that same statement. I do not like proxy picks either. You get hyped about something and then it's like, oh, psych, it's not actually that.
But Gragas, this champion has been all over. And if anyone has watched that amazing play that Demise Academy made last Saturday, where they absolutely annihilated with a Gragas engage into a Urinate Ultimate, you know how hyped this champion's been making me feel. Soraka and Maokai, I'm a little bit less hyped on, but Maokai support, if that's what they're going to be running, is exceptionally funny.
So I had some funny statements about Gragas before he even came into meta.
Okay.
For a long time, I was preaching Gragas is just so good into melees. Always so good into melees because you can body slam and completely deny them auto-attacking you and get both your other abilities off in that meantime. And people are like, oh yeah, he's actually pretty good at the melees now, right? And then just started picking him into that Renekton matchup and realizing this is actually pretty good. And find out that Gragas is a good champion.
Yeah, he's kind of come out of nowhere a little bit, but teams in the UKEL seem to know what's up because they've been picking him and finding a lot of success with this pickup. Ricard Misfortune going to be the picks in the... Well, no, I've been lied to. It's Misfortune Rel in the bot side, but Rel is a champion that I'm really, really liking at the moment as a pickup, and with the Oriana being locked in, presumably mid lane, we've got some interesting bans coming through for the second round.
Yeah, we do indeed. And it's what we talked about with proxy picks. Stop doing this to us. We don't like it. But I like Rel. I think Rel is such a strong champion, and it took people forever to actually pick up on her. I feel like she's one of the ones like Nico's the best reminder, where she was actually strong the entire time, just people didn't want to play her, didn't like her at first. And the more they found these combos what went really well with her, there's like, this champion's actually insane. Her engage, the fact that she has a huge shield when she's dismounted, and even just that re-engage opportunity to knock someone up.
I'm gonna drop some little knowledge and a bit of a spoiler on everyone. There's word on the street from some higher up UK players. They've been trying Rel top. It hasn't been working from what I've seen and heard, but there are a couple of theory crafters who are trying it. So keep your eyes peeled for that one. As soon as Rel top is played in competitive, you just come at me, Evi Prune on Twitter, and say you're a genius. I will appreciate that. But with I was going to say Articuno because of Blooming Anivia, Camille, Graves, and Olaf all off the table. So a lot of strong aggressive junglers and strong solo laners are being taken away. We've got the Rek'Sai going into the jungle with Victor in the mid lane for Nerd Rage.
Nice pickups overall. Just before we fall off that rail point, I do not think she works top. I understand the theory because I wanted to try it too. I was like, she can work, right? But her damage numbers are quite low.
Yeah, they're not good.
But
they're not there.
Either way, if this Mundo is actually a Mundo here, I really like this pickup. He did actually receive some buffs coming off this latest patch, and it's actually in a decent spot, which is funny to see him buffed more or less before he's getting reworked. It's a weird thing. Usually they would just leave the champion. And now we got some bullies on the table.
Now we got some Darius out and about in the bot side, which kind of confirms that it's going to be a Soraka Maokai bot lane, which that's just for everyone who's wondering, like, what do you like, what don't you like in terms of a composition? Because I don't like stupid compositions. Soraka Maokai in the bot lane is like the right level of funny to me, because you've got this carry Soraka, you've got the Maokai saplings, which do hilarious amount of damage for like no reason. It's all a lot of fun. So more of that, please, but less of like the Seraphine Lux spot, because that's not fun for anyone.
Yeah, Seraphine Lux, Seraphine Leona, just nah. We don't want any of that. But for some reason, as soon as that was locked in the Soraka, I had a feeling, because Soraka bot lane has been floating around for quite a while now. People found out that Soraka Yuumi thing, where Yuumi purposely gets low so Soraka can move around like 700 movement speed with her passive. But even with Maokai, that's almost a guaranteed root and silence on top. So that can be really, really obnoxious to deal with.
It can be really, really rough. And as we're just going to quickly run through our second round of picks, it is going to be the same stuff. We're just making sure that we get that Rel rather than that Rakan. There's been a little bit of chatter in our broadcast chat that our producer and our stats guy have been bragging about having high numbers in our prediction game that we're running right now. It's almost like watching all of the games gives you an advantage into knowing how the games are played. You'd think, and it's our stats guy as well. He's like, his whole job is looking at the numbers and predicting who will do well. That's like what we have him here for. And he's like, wow, isn't it funny that I'm good at knowing who wins? And then it's like, it's not really that surprising, is it, Patters? But, you know, and his best thing is he can't come on and talk back at me, because that'd be unprofessional of him, because he's the producer. I love my job. But talk to me about Gragas Darius, Mr. Rail, so that Phil can't shout at me in my ear anymore. How does this matchup go?
So it's still definitely not fun for Gragas, but you can still deny a lot to the Darius, because Darius wants to hit you with the outside of his Q more or less most of the time. And how are you going to dodge that? You're going to E right into him. And if this Gragas is smart enough to go phase rush, this Darius is not going to do a thing to this Gragas. He's going to full combo him, run away with phase rush. You ain't catching me. And Darius is more likely going Flash Ghost, so...
Well, we'll have to see how that one goes down. Also, speaking of champions that I've heard are good top, but shouldn't be, talk to me about Rek'Sai. What should we be expecting from Don Lucy in this game?
Expecting a lot of aggression, for sure. I want to see that Rek'Sai camp mid lane. I want to see Victor having like 10 stacks at like 20 minutes. Not going to happen because you can get it from CS, but still, I want to see Victor completely denied. Denying him CS is been huger than it's ever been before. Before it was like huge because it's like, okay, I can't get hex core on my base. Now it's like, okay, I need minions for my hex core, otherwise I can't wave clear here. And what a perfect lane to be doing it into with an Orianna. You got good early game damage to set up the Rek'Sai. As long as Rek'Sai can find and pass behind the Victor, you can really catch him slipping in his mid lane.
You mentioned the Orianna in that matchup. Moonstone Orianna? Yes, no, yes, but not in this matchup.
I don't want Moonstone Orianna here because I feel like you're going to get Moonstone Soraka. So I feel like you definitely want a little bit more damage in your pocket. But on the other side, there's so much magic damage on the side of Nerd Rage here. It's a little bit concerning. If Misfortune gets behind, you're mainly just magic damage in this entire team comp.
And it's going to be difficult for you to come back into it if you can just stack armor on champions like Darius and then, or stack magic resist even, and not worry about anything because Misfortune's already so far behind. But let's go through these compositions and see exactly what they're trying to do, because with a couple of these winner picks, I'm really happy that we've had two very interesting drafts in our two final games of this evening. Talk to me about Nerd Rage's draft. If they are going to win this game, how do you think they can do it?
I still look mainly towards that bot lane. Soraka isn't a mobile target, and what does Rail love? She loves a mobile target. She loves these AD carries like Aphelios. When you see them picked, you pick Rail, Samira, and he has a lot less of a fun time because the guaranteed dive onto him, you have a stun, you have a pull in, you can almost guarantee that they are going to die or flash away, and then you rinse and repeat because your cooldowns aren't that long. So that's mainly what I'm looking to for Nerd Rage. You picked a consistent top with Gragas. You can either just sit back and farm, or you can trade and then just run away with a phase rush. You might even go Comet just to poke away at this Darius. A farming jungler in the Mundo can be quite scary if you meet Rek'Sai, so you won't want to do that early. But when you get 6 with Red Smite, it can actually be not too bad into that trade. And mid lane, you've got a scaling mid lane. That's the main worry for me right now. Is that that's going to be the key target. If they just focus down this Victor, it's going to be a scary game for Nerd Rage.
And Victor's not the most mobile champion, is the kind of person where you blow flash and you're like, perfect, let's go in again. So Is this where Dunlossie should be hanging around? Should he be looking for the 2v2 mid side?
I think so, for sure. And you look at the side of Mythos, they have a very mid-game focused team comp overall. You got Darius, early mid-game for sure. Rek'Sai does fall off quite hard. Might see Prowler's Claw, might not. We'll see how it actually pans out. Orianna actually can combo quite well with Rek'Sai as a champion as well. So I do like that combo as the 2v2. I'm very unsure about this bot lane, but the theory of the guaranteed silence can be a lot of damage in the bot lane.
So looking at these two compositions as we get counting down to getting onto the Rift, which side do you prefer? Which side do you think is more likely to win with the draft that they've built?
This is a harder one, I'm not going to lie. This is definitely a harder one. I'm leaning towards Nerd Rage still, just because I really like the combination of their bot lane. I like MF Rel as a combo. You have so much damage in that lane. Even the fact that if someone dives to the MF, you stun them and you kite back. Rel is one of the best peel supports in the game right now. And if they know how to play it well, it's going to be really hard to deal with MF.
I'm torn. This game has got me very, very torn in terms of which composition I like better. And I think Mythos, I really like what they've built. Yes, they've got something a little bit less orthodox, but it's not like I can't see how they win this game. It's not one of those compositions that's hugely difficult to execute, like we saw from last game from Lucendi. This one, I can see its win conditions. I can see how it does it. And when you're drafting stuff like the Soraka and the Orianna, you always know you're going to have a pretty decent time in these smaller skirmishes into team fights because you've got so many tools. So I'm really excited to jump into this last game of the day. I hope everyone at home is as well, because remember, Nerd Rage winning this game will go 3-0, joint top of the table. Mythos winning this game will take both of these teams to 2-1. And yes, it's early in the season, but if you want to be staking your claim for the first and second spots, you're going to have to be winning these early matches. And when these two teams, I said this to Rael when we were doing the prep, Nerd Rage are in amazing form. They're moving at such high speed up the table, but Mythos could well be the perfect roadblock for them.
And that's what they're going to look to be. But my main concern, actually, which I forgot to talk about completely,
Okay.
look at Mythos, right? Count how many people have consistent damage on Mythos, and to be honest, there's not many at all.
It's one.
Exactly.
Really.
And then think about what you need to kill Mundo. It's consistent damage. You see in my theory here? You see why I'm a little
seeing
bit
your issue.
worried?
I'm seeing a problem, but counterpoint, what if you just kill the Mundo?
That's what I want to see. I want to see them invaded by the Rek'Sai. You're definitely going to have that pressure in that top side. So supporting that alone, that's what I want to be seeing, that 2v2 work in top or the 2v2 work in mid. And then pushing that pressure from mid lane, from top lane, into that jungle, shutting down Mundo. Don't give him that chance to get to the point where he's going to be unkillable.
Because if he does get there, as you say, the options for killing him are pretty limited. I mean, both Darius and Orianna do a decent amount of damage, like, consistently, but they're not really the optimal people to be doing that. You usually want that to be kind of the ADC, your Vayne, or your name a second ADC that's good in the meta. That's your Kai'Sa, even, maybe. But when your ADC is a Soraka, maybe a little bit less so.
Yeah. And I like that Rek'Sai is starting top side here. I like that they're starting the red buff. Mundo going for the classic Raptors clear because it's just really healthy, really fast. I want to see Rek'Sai try to find this Mundo as much as he can in this game.
Yeah, Don Losty needs to be the catalyst in this game, and has really been the catalyst for a lot of the good stuff that Mythos have been doing this season. Has looked very, very strong. There's been quite a lot of hype surrounding him from a few analysts and people behind the scenes, so have to see if Don Losty can live up to that. Has gone straight from red to blue, and is now potentially looking towards an aggressive play. We've seen it from him before, and we'll have to see if he can pull off the same play, and if it's going to be predicted or even countered by Magikarp.
Also, that's the thing, what we didn't mention. Rek'Sai's gank paths are so different to any other jungler. So warding against a Rek'Sai becomes even harder. You need to ward these narrow paths behind the wall to make sure that Rek'Sai isn't coming behind you and not just from a tri-bush.
With Dr. Mundo moving up to the top side means that Rek'Sai will have an uninterrupted gank in bot if he so chooses. If Dunlossie wants to be getting down there, it looks like he might be doing just that. Has cleared out both buffs and the Gromp to hit level 3 in a very, very expedient fashion, and is moving along from the Tribush to try and get a gank down. Flash forward into the root, but nothing's been followed up from Von Flagin, so Arkarav kind of just used Flash for no reason and nothing was gained.
Yeah, that was way too early. Rek'Sai wasn't even close. Even with Burrow, wouldn't even be close. Over-aggression there, forcing out the flash for nothing, and actually could be punished for this. Talking of punishment, looking for that mid lane now.
Yeah, Magikarp is hanging around the river, though, so could be getting involved. And I don't know if you want to be tower diving the Victor this early on. Don Lossie's spending a lot of time waiting for this one, and it doesn't look like it's going to really come to anything. So
this is really bad here.
Gets the knock-up, but takes the tower shot, gets a lot of damage down, but will be forced to back away, gets the flash from the Victor, but moving into the bot side, there's a bit of a scuffle going on as well. Gentile going very, very low, has to flash away with the Ignite burning on him, but Don Lossie, question marks raised there from that decision-making.
Yeah, for sure. He's 12 CS to Mundo's 28 now, because Mundo took a full clear, was able to get the Scuttle Crab for free, which he shouldn't be getting, and is now meeting this Rek'Sai in the jungle 1 level up.
Yeah, Magikarp able to chase the Rek'Sai away from his Raptors, and when we're saying that we need the Rek'Sai to be putting the Mundo behind and contesting the Mundo, it's not a great look when he's chasing you off his Raptors at a level up, and when you go down for a repeat gank bot and can't do anything because of warding and the Mundo's positioning. This is looking really, really worrying for Mythos' early game prospects.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like they wasted so much time on just trying to get that mid lane gank. Sure, you got his flash, but at what cost? You lost so much CS, so much XP in the jungle.
And now it's a case of, okay, how does Dunlossie and Mythos recover from this? And what can Magikarp do with this advantage that he's been given? He doesn't have to do anything completely proactive because the Mundo just likes not being killed by Rek'Sai early. That's quite nice for him. And he gets the opportunity to go back, start building those tank items, and getting harder and harder to kill. With that Barmy Cinder, is going to be feeling a little bit more confident. And we saw from that scrap around the Raptors that Magikarp isn't looking to give up his jungle for free. He's going to be there to try and contest and try and keep the Rek'Sai down for as long as possible.
Oh, and I see something I love. I'm looking at that top lane. I'm looking at that Gragas. I see that Seeker's arm guard already. Super good value. You're going to get much more armor on board. You're going to be much more tankier. And for such low gold economy as well, it's such a cheap item for how much you get out of it. And such a nice early pickup.
And he's gone for that phase rush as well. I don't know if we've fully appreciated that yet. He's clearly reading from the script that you've written for him. Going to be looking to keep the Darius down as much as possible, but in the mid lane, could be a 3v1 in fact, with Magikarp and Flajian looking for the engage. Flash away from the Orianna to keep Man Robo alive. Dunlossie in the wings as well, but isn't going to be needed this time around. But now, neither mid laner has Flash.
Neither mid laner has Flash indeed. Really nice 3-man collapse. And I like that we actually didn't talk too much about Rel's roam potential. She has such fast movement speed when mounted, but obviously when demounted, she has like 3 to 5, so really, really slow. Maybe even slower than that. I can't think off the top of my head, but Rel's roam potential is absolutely absurd.
It is really, really strong. You see her moving up again, looking towards Arkarov on the Maokai, who may well get stunned up, will be caught in that gravity field, and needs to be really, really careful, getting the root down and trying to run away, but won't be able to do so with the knockup of First Blood going on to Magikarp. Now, Man Robert needs to be in for retreat, as he's taking a decent pounding as well. Nice barrel, double kill Mundo, and an excellent teleport play from Magic will set up Nerd Rage excellently, and they're going to be able to move down towards this dragon.
What a perfect barrel there, setting up for the second kill. Not only going to get Scuttle Crab there, he's also going to get the dragon. Look at this Mundo. 48 CS, 2 kills. He is going to be really hard to stop. There's TP coming down.
Mythos want to scrap for this one. Darius is going to be stunned up and slowed up, which means that the dragon is going to be taken pretty easily by members of Nerd Rage. Magikarp has used the ultimate, but it's not going to be enough, and he's going to go down. Shut down, in fact, taken over by Extra Cheeky on the Darius, but they'll be reasonably happy with that, exchanging it for the Mountain Drake.
Yeah, they'll be more than happy trading this. And it was the Darius what got the kill, so that is the worst case scenario in a way, because Darius is a snowballing champion. All he wants is kills to get ahead, but he hasn't been able to punish Gragas so far. He hasn't been able to get anything onto this Gragas. He's had to rush these Merc Treads. There is a lot of obviously magic damage on CC, so not really a surprise there, but he's not been able to really punish top.
No, it hasn't been able to do so just yet. Is now moving down onto the bot side. The lane swap has been triggered by Mythos, who want to now start playing around this Rift Herald that will be spawning up not too distant future, in a couple of seconds, in fact. Going to be jumping onto the map, and with that first rotation coming through from Mythos, they're definitely going to have the priority on it. And yes, they're a little bit behind. It's nothing that's a couple more champions a little bit quicker onto an objective won't solve.
For sure, and they're looking towards that priority for that Rift Herald. And I love when I see teams do this. I want to actually see it used proactively this game. This last game, we didn't have a proactive first Rift Herald. Let's see if we can get some platings out of this one.
Definitely possible. Dunlossie taking up that red buff, and now with Rift Herald being the focus, as I say, they want to be doing it relatively quickly to give themselves a bigger window to grab those plates that we saw being failed to achieve in the last game. And once again, it is Mythos who have got the control around the area, but because they were kind of slow to get onto it, members of Nerd Rage have moved up. You've got 4 members in the top side of the map, and of course, with X-Streaky not having teleport puts him at a little bit of a disadvantage. Of course, Gragas has it down as well, so it's just going to be a 4v4 if a fight kicks off, but it's been started up by Mythos, and taking a decent amount of damage. Flajian looking for the engage here. We'll be able to get a lot of CC down as Zyke picks up the first kill of the fight. Dunlossie's going to be burnt through as well as the Gentile, and Man Robbo going to be forced to back away, and Nerd Rage easily pick up the Rift Herald, which was so nicely leashed for them by Mythos.
It was indeed. It looked hard for them to first walk in for Nerd Rage, looking to sort of deny them any path to get in, but Nerd Rage find their way in, and they find it in the best way possible with Flajian. Darius actually looking for a play on this bot side, but more or less denied.
Yeah,
Good looking though.
Gragas able to flash away, still looking for something, but won't be able to find any further aggression. Cheeky going to have the flash advantage in that lane. No, meanwhile, in the top side, Magikarp going to be helping out higher, get a couple of plates. We'll be dropping the Rift Herald very aggressively. There are members up there from Mythos, so we're looking to get the damage out, but look at that bullet time. Excellent work as the Gentile gets the kill on to Magikarp. Actually, not going to get anything from the Misfortune Ultimate, so a lot of damage done, but actually not too much gained except for a couple of extra plates.
Yeah, sadly, Misfortune doesn't have the most damaging items yet, so not really getting much out of that Misfortune, or getting a few low members, but no real execution there. And instead, they take down Magikarp once again.
But the top tower now only has one plate on it, so could be in a decent spot for someone like Magic on this Gragas to come up and try and grab the first tower of the game. None of the other towers are anywhere near as low. Only one of the plate has been taken away from that single top side tower, and that's the power of the Rift Herald, right? You look at Nerd Rage, they've gained themselves a couple of thousand gold in the lead, and a lot of that is coming through from sharing the gold from that push on top.
Yeah, and I definitely still think it's worth, despite losing the Mundo there. Plates are definitely a big income in terms of getting ahead in gold, and sharing that with Misfortune, definitely something you want to be doing in this comp.
Yeah, you say she hasn't got the most damaging items just yet, but if you keep funneling gold into her, she'll get them in pretty short order. Manrobo going to be donated that blue buff as Extra Cheeky clears out bot, but looking around this dragon, it's going to be up in 35 again. Mythos are first to the punch, but last time they had priority on an objective, they started a little bit too early and found themselves in trouble. And speaking of trouble, Flagian has to flash in the wall to get away, but Extra Cheeky has used Ghost. Haya is there, maybe looking for a bit of a slow, but won't be able to do too much to save his support. The ultimate has been used, but Flagian is going to be left for dead as Extra Cheeky picks up the kill.
Really nice pick off there by Mythos. They lose the first tower on the top side, but able to pick up a kill and starting to try set up towards his dragon side again. The pink's already down, waiting for that scuttle as well, and dragon spawning right now.
Dragon on the map, Ocean Drake, so getting a bit more sustain if they can pick this one up, and it looks like this one should be a pretty safe take from Mythos. Yes, they started it earlier, but they've got good vision. There's no one from Nerd Rage in the neighborhood, and that one's going to be secured. The Cloud winds will quicken across the rift as we do get the Cloud Soul confirmed, and that one's going to be liked by a lot of these champions.
Yep, for sure. Especially if Mundo gets that. That's going to be a terrifying Mundo running at you with so much movement speed. But so far, Nerd Rage have really been slowed down in their momentum.
100%. They were so quick out the gates, and it looked really, really good for them. We were talking about how Donaldson has not been able to stop Magikarp from getting going, but now the whole of Nerd Rage seem to have, I don't want to say stalled, because they still got a decent lead. They're not losing their lead, but they're not growing it any further, and they've let Mythos back into the game just a little bit with those objectives and allowing them to stabilize the lane states a little bit. Having said that, Nerd Rage have managed to pick up that top tower now, so the map is going to be opened up a little bit more on that top side, which will be relevant in a couple of minutes' time when the second Rift Herald comes onto the map, and they can start looking to get that one to invest in even more siege damage.
So it is 22.5k gold to 19.6. So it's still not too much apart. It's nothing too far away that you can't come back from as well. So Nerd Rage still just trying to keep the lead as far ahead as possible, but they need to find ways to stay ahead. They need to start being a little bit more proactive, I think. They need to start making these plays happen.
Have to see if they can do so in the next couple of minutes' time. I was saying the next objective will be Rift Herald, so there's nothing really to fight over other than that. But you can see that there's aggressive movements from a couple of members of the bot lane. Haya wants to be getting towards Extra Cheeky, just poking him out. Darius doesn't have the best time at closing the distance onto someone like the Misfortune, especially without that Ghost being evadable. LMF can kind of just strut away, which she'll feel very happy to do. And with Magikarp down there, it looks like they're going to put a concerted effort into trying to get a lot of damage down onto this tower, maybe even take it out.
But interesting enough, look at Gragas's items. He is building AP.
Ooh, okay.
So
in the mid lane, we're going to see a bit of a scrap going down as the tower goes down. Bot, a kill easily secured there for Mythos, able to grab that one onto Zyke, who was a little bit overextended with a 3-man unit on his tail. But trading an objective for a kill is absolutely fine, as long as they can keep this mid tower standing.
As long as they can keep standing. The forces are arriving to deny this, but
looking for something. The barrel will be good catching Don Lossie, who's going to be able to tunnel away. Teleport coming through as well. Nerd Rage decide they've already got the resources. They've already got what they came for, and have backed away from this one. I really like that from Nerd Rage. They're not overextending. They're not trying to force a play that looked good because the situation changed and they adapted.
Yeah, and that's absolutely huge, blowing that TP from Oriana. Denying her TP is absolutely huge, denying any side lane resources. She can't be on the other side of the map when Baroness spawns, for example. So, getting a TP, really good, but my main worry is right now, Mythos have found 3 picks in a row. Granted, it has been traded for some objectives, but they really are starting to drop gold for nothing in a way.
Definitely a little bit of a concern, but nothing too scary right now in that regard. But let's see what these two teams are looking to do next, what their game plan is. Both mid towers are still standing, which is probably going to be a focal point, especially for Nerd Rage, who don't have easy objectives to take elsewhere other than that. And both teams really want to be able to crack over the map to start fighting for these more important dragons and Baron when it's on the map in 4 minutes' time. Both teams seemingly posturing around, but it looks like Mythos are more keen on starting this fight right now than Nerd Rage are.
Yeah, Nerd Rage, they do have a scaling team comp at the end of the day. Like, despite me wanting them to do a bit more, they don't need to at all. They can sit back. They can be happy. They can just take farm. They're still in a gold lead, but it's still the worry of them getting picked off. I don't want people getting picked off before an objective like a Baron or a Dragon. It can start swinging in a way where they don't want to. But at the same point, like we just said, they can sit and scale and be happy.
We have a little bit of pause, everybody, but don't you worry, we're going to get that resolved as soon as possible. Hopefully, it's not the Baltic pause that took 45 minutes. That made a best of one. It made a best of one series take 2 hours. That was a thing, but it was a lot of fun. And with the state of the game right now, who in your mind, let's start with Nerve Rage while we're in this pause. Nerve Rage, they stalled a tiny bit. It's not too worrying, but which player, which champion on the side of Nerd Rage do you want to see taking the initiative and driving their team further forward into getting these fights, trying to take this game out of control for Mythos?
It's mainly going to be down to the Rel or the Gragas. It's going to be whoever can find that Soraka out of position. One cask throwing Soraka into your team, one Rel stun landed onto Soraka. She's dead almost instantly. There's so much damage to follow up from that point onwards. But there needs to also be that person to deny the backline access of both Darius and Rek'Sai. And that's the thing we need to watch. Can they control these flanks?
Well, let's see if they can control it as we get back into game. Wasn't too long a pause, so we all like that one. They are definitely looking for the flanks, Mythos, and it's going to be difficult for them to find it when they have to clear out vision, and people kind of know where they are. We're dragging up in less than a minute. Resets are coming through, and this is kind of where I expect to see the next big fight coming down, because you don't tend to see teams at this level fighting over nothing.
Yeah, for sure. And there's a lot of follow-up CC by Nerd Rage, by the way. So if anything hits, anything at all, there's so much follow-up CC. One cleaver hits, that's a stun coming through from Rel, probably. One stun hits from Rel.
Ooh, no stun landing, but there's the Gragas double stun. The barrel comes through, the damage is just shy, and Dunlossie will be able to slither away. Members of Mythos do turn up to try and stop any kind of re-engage or chase potential. With your jungler being so low, Dunlossie back at base, it's given such great opportunity for Nerd Rage to set up a strong position, a strong formation around this spawning dragon.
And it's exactly what we just talked about. One bit of CC, be it a slow or a stun, everything's going to follow up, and this is just game of a dragon.
Yeah, CC begets CC begets CC on the side of Nerd Rage, and that is all going to beget a dragon, the first Cloud Dragon taken this game, but with them being shared out in the earliest stage, that means that we're not looking for any kind of soul point any time soon. Again, Mythos hanging around in that bush that they like. They know they've got vision control in it, but they haven't been able to find anything, and deciding that they're not just going to wait for a kill that may or may not come, they're going to move on to the Rift Herald and try and handshake some objectives.
And I don't think they're too scared about giving up this Rift Herald at this point. You're not going to gain as much from this Rift Herald as you would earlier. There's no plates on the map, and you still have all outer turrets. You've not cracked a single Nerd Rage tower. It's 2 towers to 0 right now, so Mythos really needed this pickup.
Yeah, picking this one up is going to be amazing to try and siege down and get some of that damage down on towers, especially that mid lane one. If possible, really opens up the map for them if they can secure that. But Nerd Rage opting for the reset, happy to give that one away, maybe thinking that there's not going to be too much gained by Mythos on that one, but definitely want to be getting rid of these wards around the Baron pit because that one's spawning up in a minute and a half, and they're going to be much less happy giving that one away.
Yeah, I don't think that's one you want to give up for free for sure. And I want to see more agency from this Rek'Sai. So we've seen them first 3 picks, and then it slowed down completely. Rek'Sai has been the catalyst of most of these picks. We need to see some setup. Maybe pick off the Gragas in the side lane. Sure, it will sacrifice some of the Baron HP, but I feel like you'll be able to collapse onto the Baron in time if they choose to go for that.
Magic was looking for a collapse, but didn't manage to find a Gentile, gets the barrel off onto Arkaraf, but that's all she wrote on that engage. Not one for the history books, and that can be a bit of a problem with champions like Gragas. If you miss the engage and you miss the CC, regardless of the follow-up, you can be in quite a dangerous position.
But at the same point, look at Gragas ult CD. It's already a quarter gone, and it's almost going to be back up in no time. And to say that he can just do the same rinse and repeat, probably blow a flash, rinse and repeat, you no longer have flash. It's really scary to play against, and that's a lot of the power in the Gragas.
Definitely a really strong pickup and a champion that I'm enjoying watching right now because the CC and the opportunities for engage, the opportunity for action that he brings and the threat that he gives in almost any situation, as you say, with these short cooldowns on his ultimate, it's already nearly back up. And basically nothing has transpired on the map since then. So just a very, very exciting pick. Dunlossie dropping the Rift out into mid lane on top of Haya and Flajian might be quite an interesting decision. They're looking to force through onto this mid tower, but members are moving through from Nerd Rage to try and deny it. The charge will come through, but in the mid lane, Flajian looking for an engage. We'll be able to find Arcraft with a nice little stun as Magic moves in. That's a really nice predict on the body slam to confirm the kill. The re-engage from Dunlossie could turn this one into a 1v1. Magic needs to be careful. Goes down to Dunlossie, who will be able to slip away through the tunnel. Magikarp is pretty tanky, so it's difficult to take down. It looks like a tower dive could have been on the menu, but Haya didn't want to continue it any further. It's 1-4 on the trade, but Nerd Rage have the wave, and they're sieging down mid.
It's actually 2 for 1. The Victor
Ooh.
died in the side lane.
Ooh. Don't love that one being caught out there. And Magikarp doesn't like being caught out by so many members of Mythos. They're chasing down. The ring is up and the dunk is on. Dunlossie picking up the kill before actually he can land it. But that's a really nice play from Mythos. They take it out of the key members of Nerd Rage. And while Gragas is going to be back up, it looks like Mythos are going to be happy to move in and try and get some control around this Baron area.
Yeah, they can definitely get control and force the enemy to more so space check this now because you've just lost your jungler. There was potential they could go straight Baron here, but they didn't want to take the risk despite the key ultimates being down of the MF ultimate, the Rel ultimate, both off the table, but they're taking no risks here. They're happy with the kills.
They'd absolutely be, they'll be very, very happy with that. Yes, there's still a few K gold behind, but that lead is shrinking, and another team fight like that can very easily turn into an objective when these death timers get a little bit longer. And you said you were a little bit worried about Nerd Rage being caught out, and Victor in the side lane, definitely one that's very, very easy to catch.
Yeah, so far I really haven't been impressed with his Victor pick. I like Victor as a champion as well, but so far, Zyke, is that how to say it?
I think so.
I think Zyke really hasn't impressed me on his Victor. It seems like he's definitely been caught a lot of times and had to use his summoners defensively.
Oh, X-Cheeky's gone in looking for the engage, getting a lot of damage down, and that's a very dead misfortune, and the damage has been removed. All the AD damage as Gentile gets the kill onto Zyke. Magikarp chased away, and double kill for Darius. That's the pickup we were talking about, and with these slightly longer death timers and 3 members of Nerd Rage down, Baron's on the cards for Mythos.
That's the aggressiveness you want to see out of this Darius pick, and it's paying off. That Stride Breaker coming in big, getting a slow off, and getting such a big pickup there. They should be able to pick up this Baron here, uncontested.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a contest. Rel and Gragas not interested in it, moving down potentially towards that dragon to pick up a 3rd dragon and set themselves up for Soul Point, but Mythos have definitely turned on the style in the last couple of fights and are looking very, very good for this game. They do need to be careful that they don't overextend, but right now, the gold lead is dead even and the ball's in their court.
So the scary thing to talk about, Stridebreaker on Darius,
Okay.
and the reason this item is just terrifying, Darius already when he's running at you, you don't really want to fight all the time. He wants these long trades, he wants to get in your face. That movement speed you get from Stridebreaker is absurd on him. Combine that with him building into Deadman's.
Nerd Rage is going to be trying to get this dragon down, and the fight has been kicked off. Zonlossi has already gone reasonably low, but has to be careful. Magic has to go golden to stay alive, as the Rek'Sai will go out the back of the fight. Yagentau in the middle of the enemy team, not where he wants to be. As Zonlossi picks up a kill, it's a 1-for-1, but the shutdown from Magikarp will make this one a little bit unfair, as going airborne, going down, extra cheeky, unstoppable, as he takes down Rel. Look at that. Once again, the team fight is favored on the side of Mythos. They're going to pick themselves up a second dragon of the game. And it's looking worse and worse for Nerd Rage.
It is indeed. They're not able to get these team fights off what they're looking for. And instead, they're the ones getting caught out of position. They're the ones being denied the movements. They've been denied the pathing. And it's showing. Mythos is really taking the initiative in these fights and just saying, we are way stronger. We can take these every time.
And they can take these every time. They've shown it time and time again that their ability to control the team fights, to get good trades, and then to follow up and grab objectives on the back of it. That's all you need to do to win mid-game in League of Legends. You win a team fight, you take an objective, you rinse and repeat. And this is exactly what they've been doing for the past couple of minutes. Nerd Rage need to find themselves quickly, and getting a catch on the Siraj will be exactly how you want to start doing that. So much damage coming through as the Gragas picks up a kill, and that's a nice pick, which should be turned into a mid lane tower as well. So even though I'm praising Mythos for it, Nerd Rage can do it as well.
Woo! Look at that Orianna damage coming out on that MF. Very scary thought for MF stepping up there. Orianna unfortunately having no ult, but just that QW, the command attack, just half HP the MF there.
Still needs to be careful, still can't be overstepping to try and force things down. But again, Nerd Rage are disciplined in not doing that. Yes, they don't get the objective, but they got chip damage on the tower and can look to get it in a couple of waves time. Mythos now returning to their favorite bush, their favorite stomping ground, clearing out vision to make sure that they can use it time and time again to try and get a play going. But this game has become very even very quickly. Mythos with the small gold lead right now, but Nerd Rage definitely not out of it yet.
Definitely not out of it yet. They just need to be a bit more clinical in execution in my eyes. Again, Victor's really been mispositioning in fights, and because of that, he has been the main member getting picked off really, really early before every even skirmish, or even before the fight's properly kicked off.
And you don't want your damage dealer or one of your main damage dealers being killed before the fight even starts, because and the damage isn't going to happen because he's dead. He's not a Karthus. He's not a Scion. You don't want this going down. But Zonlossi just setting up some tunnels in and around the base before moving on out. And Baron up in 2.5 minutes. Objectives coming down pretty slowly. There's not going to be anything to really fight over soon. And does that mean we're in for a pretty quiet period of the game?
I wouldn't say so, actually, with the way Mythos has been playing. Every opportunity they've seen to collapse on someone, they take it within a heartbeat. And I talked about Darius's movement speed. He has another winged moonplate now in the form of, what do you call it? Force of nature. I had to think for a second. So he's going to be even faster.
He's going to be able to get onto the back line of Nerd Rage, or even on the front line if he's feeling like it, very, very easily. Isn't that top side trying to get some damage down on this tower, trying to siege it and take another part of the ground currently owned by Nerd Rage? They're all hanging around mid, have to clear up because that mid lane inner tower is so, so low. But Mythos are playing with such confidence after the first few minutes of this game, and is really showing that they can take the fights to these teams, especially Nerd Rage, who, remember, are undefeated at the moment, and Mythos looking very, very strong going toe-to-toe.
Definitely so. It looked a bit shaky in the early game, especially with the Rek'Sai pathing. The Rek'Sai pathing looked really sketchy in the early game, but then it actually started to pay off. The aggression, really, it started to add up, getting that pick after pick after pick, slowing down Nerd Rage's momentum in this game.
And they were slowed to a halt, and then they were overtaken, but the gold lead is so close. There's only about 1,000 gold in it to the 27-28 minute mark, and that's basically nothing. I'm worried for Zyke, though. He steps up once again. This time it's only a sapling in that bush, but on another occasion, with the vision that is being gained slowly but surely by Mythos, he steps up too far and he finds himself a Rek'Sai or a Darius even. He could be in a lot of trouble.
You could definitely be in a lot of trouble. Darius has 3 completed items right now, so he is the scariest member you want to see at this point. If you see that ghost popped, you're in danger.
Absolutely. And now that we've got through this quieter stage, yes, Mythos were looking for plays and looking for aggression, but weren't able to find any this time around. Moving towards where Baron's coming up, but we're moving towards here first. He's going to have to try and get away, but a nice knockup from Dunlossy will get the pick that Mythos have been looking for the past couple of minutes, and now they might have to take the fight once again. There's a nice one that comes through from Oriana to catch up the rail. Third Rage Flageon looking to get away from this one, but won't be able to do so as the flash from Gragas is forced. Cheeky coming through, but look at the barrel, look at the drag, look at the gold as Magic turns into a statue that's just going to be felled by Arkaraf, the tree. Now Mythos, we've seen this one before, they get a triple pick and move towards Baron.
The Prowler's Claw from Rek'Sai there was absolutely beautiful, guaranteeing a knock up on the MF. Pretty much there, you're dead to rights. There's nothing you can do. You've already flashed. It's just a follow up on board. They need to stop this Mundo though. Mundo is looking to try get that cheeky steal in.
He's hanging around looking for an opportunity to run in and grab the Baron. On the other side though, Zyke not able to get up to the pit as Man Robo is playing Bouncer, but this is quite a slow Baron. Remember, no marksman available from Mythos because that's a Soraka this game. So will Magikarp be able to do anything? Members are spawning from Nerd Rage. They're moving in. Rel is running. And look at that. Magikarp has gone into the pit. Goes low. And goes down, not able to steal the Baron this time around. It's going to be secured by Extra Cheeky. The Battle Fight is going to kick off once again. Extra Cheeky wants to get as many people killed as possible. But High is trying to remove these Baron buffs. Dunlossy on the side gets to Zyke, gets him low, but doesn't get the kill. But on the other side, members of Nerd Rage who are in the back line doesn't survive even remotely. And yeah, Zyke gets away. Yeah, Magic gets away this time around. But 5 members sitting on Baron from Mythos. And the base is in danger.
Yeah, this game is slipping completely out of Nerd Rage's hands. They are having no answers to Mythos' hard engage every time. And it's showing. It's showing that they have no answer to how they're playing this game.
None at all, and the first bit of the base has been knocked down at the 13-minute mark. Mythos going to be able to take the inhibitor as well before rotating probably towards bot side where Oriana has set up the way, but Dragon is available as well, which they might want to go for. In fact, with Oriana taking that inner tower, they've all backed away towards that objective. It won't be sold just yet, but it will set them up perfectly for a 5-minute soul take.
Going to be a really, really nice soul for them, especially if Darius gets one reset in a team fight. No. He's already fast. I feel like I've been saying this all game. He's already fast. This boy's going to be going even faster. And he's just in a terrifying state that you have to deal with him, but then you've also got to think, is the Oriana ball near me? Is Rek'Sai diving towards me? You have so much to deal with.
There's so many threats, and then when you've got the CC from Maokai and the healing coming in from Soraka, especially with that ultimate, that wish that can help out all 5 members of Mythos if they're in trouble, it's a very, very scary prospect, and we were a little bit worried that the damage wouldn't necessarily be there from this Mythos lineup, but looking at the way Dunlossy's playing these teamfights, looking at the way Extra Cheeky's playing in this game as well, our fears are being a little bit assuaged as Magikarp needs to be careful, but I don't think Extra Cheeky's in a 1v5 mood just yet, and is happy to back away as the rest of his team sieges down bot lane.
And we talked about Mythos needing to step up their games. This is definitely the way to step up. They're looking strong and taking it to a strong Nerd Rage team. This Nerd Rage team was ahead in the early game by quite a bit with a scaling team comp. And they've shown their way to come back into this game against a scaling team comp and more or less outplay them at their own game.
Second inhibitor goes down, 32-minute mark. So what do Mythos want to do here? Are they going to continue fighting in this base? Are they going to peel off? There's not really objectives to go for, but fighting on the 2 Nexus towers might be one step too far. Going to be trying to get Baron empowered minions chipping down at the towers, but Magic looking for an engage. We'll be able to catch out Man Robber, but not going to be caught by any follow-ups, you see, as the damage is going to come down onto the Rel, who goes down on domination, and the backline, Zyke has already gone so low, might well burn, as Haya needs to run away as well. Arcraft gets a nice route down onto the side for the dunk, and the godlike play from Extra Cheeky. Aggressive plays do mean that people are getting executed, but it just does not matter as Mythos take the fight to Nerd Rage. They take it to the fountain, and now they're going to crumble the base to send Nerd Rage home with their first loss this season.
Mythos looking clean despite the early game, definitely coming out a stronger team now, and it feels like such an upgrade of how they're playing this game. It was like, okay, we messed up early game, sure, and then they found ways to recover it just through aggression, and that's how they played the game. Permanent aggression, pick 1, pick 2, pick 3. By the time they got the third pick, Nerd Rage had no answer.
And this is the thing. Nerd Rage looked very, very good early game. And we talked about how scary it was if Gragas could find the engage or Rel could find the engage because the follow-up could just come through. But when Dunlossie was the one finding the engages onto the back line, you're like, hold up, I can't follow through from that because you're not on my team. Also, where's my Misfortune gone? Where's my Victor gone? Consistently being picked off when you're damage dealers means that your team doesn't have all that much to do. And yeah, Rel, Mundo, and Gragas can have a good time staying alive a little bit longer. But if no one else is alive, you're not achieving anything in that fight. And Mythos just looked, after the first 5-10 minutes, so strong in that game.
Yeah, my main point was just, where was that Victor? I feel like you never got the Victor in team fights. By the time he did, he was already getting killed by Rek'Sai. Victor just wasn't able to play the game. And it really showed. It showed that they picked him off. They showed that they outpositioned him and forced him to go long ways around to team fights. By then, the team fight's already over.
Difficult game for Nerd Rage, but they'll have to pick themselves up, dust themselves down. This result means that the table has been blown wide open, with Mythos and Nerd Rage both now being 2-1 alongside LDN United. So the league's looking very, very close. And yes, it's early days. I understand that. It's going to look close because not that many games have been played. But we're setting ourselves up for a very, very interesting Saturday, which is going to be when you can next see UKEL action, because we are currently done for tonight. But make sure you join us 12 p.m. GMT on Saturday, where you'll be able to see 4 more games from these teams and see how the action transpires, who wins, who loses, and all that fun stuff. But Rael, thank you very, very much for joining me. I believe you'll be joining us on Saturday as well for a couple of exciting matchups. So everyone at home gets to listen to your rigging and your excellent takes once again. Do you have an MVP from that game?
It has to be the Darius. The Darius got denied so much in the early game that they were just like, okay, you're not having kills, you're not having lane interaction with me, I'm Gragas, phase rush, see you later. And then all of a sudden, one pick is on the Darius. Darius has the kill. Darius all of a sudden gets 2 more kills, and then Darius is just snowballing the game. Especially that Stride Breaker pick in the mid lane, that was pivotal.
And the thing, just going back to the game, when you said Darius got the first shutdown of the game, the first kill for Mythos, and you said that's actually worst case scenario for Nerd Rage because he could snowball and he could just go off, and that's exactly what we saw happen in the game. So extra cheeky, massive congratulations from us, and Mythos, massive congratulations for picking up your second win of the season. Nerd Rage back to the drawing board with you, but we'll see you on Saturday. And thank you so much everyone who stayed with us this evening, has been watching these games. We massively appreciate you, and we'll see you on Saturday.